All right, and now call to order the regular meeting of the City Council and Housing Authority for Tuesday, September, we're not there yet, February 17th. So now please join me in standing, and we're going to sing the national anthem as a video plays, then remain standing, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance together. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets declared the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now's the time for our moment of solemn expression, led by the Pastor Emeritus of Calvary Chapel, Pastor Dave Mann. Pastor, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. God, we come together again and ask for your blessing upon our meeting tonight, the business matters, considerations, and decisions before us. Bless our mayor, each council member present, all our city officials. We lift up our city staff, our entire police department, chief of police, police force, and all the staff, the fire department, Lord. Bless our chief, fire marshal, the EMS, and all the emergency response crews. We lift up our public works, our city utilities, and our water district here in Costa Mesa. All our city businesses and residents living here, we ask your blessing upon each one. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for your continued presence, providence, and protection and love towards us and our city. We pray the same for our neighboring cities and our entire country as we commit ourselves to you and to serving one another. Amen. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for a roll call. Madam Clerk, would you please do the roll call?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The record will reflect that all council is present.
All right. City Attorney Closed Session Report, Ms. Hall Barlow.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We received direction from council in closed session on the agendized items, and no reportable action was taken. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We don't have any presentations tonight, so we'll move right to public comments. So this is a time for public comment. Anybody from the chambers or on Zoom can speak for 3 minutes about anything that's not on the agenda. If it's on the consent calendar, you can speak about that too. You're going to hear at 2 minutes, you'll hear a beep and you'll see a light. If you're in the chambers, please wrap it up and the mic will cut off at 3 minutes. So we have some folks that are lining up. It's good if you line up on either side of the chambers, if you're in the chambers. And so we have some people in chambers that wish to speak. Why don't you go first, ma'am? You have the floor.
Thank you. Hello, I'm a longtime Costa Mesa resident, and I wanted to talk about the usage of flock cameras in the city of Costa Mesa. Based on the pattern of abuse and misuse of the technology as seen in other cities across California, I think that the city of Costa Mesa has an obligation to end its contract with flock camera security systems and remove these cameras in all areas of the city. Anything less shows that this city is willing to risk the lives and safety of its residents and all who visit here. ICE is aggressively expanding into Irvine as we speak. They have an office in Irvine at 2000 Main Street. It's near a childcare facility. I have no doubt that they will use whatever means necessary to access flock cameras in our city. We've already seen examples of this across California cities and countrywide. We are watching our neighboring cities side with war tech corporations that profit off of mass surveillance, apartheid, genocide, and ethnic cleansing all over the world. Ask yourself if you want that horrific reality to continue to emerge here in Costa Mesa. Speak up and act and do your job if you don't want that reality to happen. At the very least, you can start by ordering a network audit of all flock cameras in the city. We've already had a taste of the abuse of this technology. This community has already suffered rampant kidnappings. I know too many of my neighbors are afraid to leave their homes. This can't continue. We need to be more proactive about this, and I would like to see a commitment from the city leadership that in order to foster an environment of trust between the community and the city, all flock camera technology will be removed from Costa Mesa streets. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes. Yes, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor Stevens and council members. My name is Brooke. I'm an organizer with Food Not Bombs Costa Mesa, a longtime Costa Mesa resident, and a District 1 constituent. I want to begin with gratitude tonight and a big thank you to the council, the city manager's office, and the city staff. A special note of appreciation to Ivis and Sergio for your dedication to making Costa Mesa a safe and inclusive city for all of our residents. A few months ago, we stood here and asked the city to use and utilize bus shelters, city buildings, and public commons to share vital resources with our indigenous, often labeled immigrant community, legal defense, funding, mutual aid, and know your rights information. And you heard that need and you took action. Bus shelters across our city now display this information. Printed handouts are available at public city buildings, and the city website has been updated so these resources are no longer buried, but easier to find for the people who need them most. In today's climate, a time of fear and uncertainty for many families, these actions matter, and they send a clear message that Costa Mesa stands with its residents, that we believe in dignity, safety, and inclusion for all. So truly, thank you for standing with the people and on the right side of history. Yet there is more to be done. It has been confirmed that ICE is setting up facilities nearby in Irvine and Santa Ana. We are seeing increased patrols and community members are being taken, our neighbors, our coworkers, and our friends. Families are being torn apart and people are living in fear. And if we are serious about protecting our community, we must also look at the tools that can enable harm. I urge the council to cancel the city's contract with Flock Safety. Across the country, cities are cutting ties with Flock due to serious concerns about mass surveillance, privacy violations, and civil liberties. These automated license plate reader systems collect and store data on residents without suspicion of a crime, and reports have shown risks of unauthorized federal access, discriminatory targeting, and the creation of permanent movement records. And in some states, captured images have even been deemed a public record, opening the door to third-party access. This technology does not just target crime, it tracks communities. Other cities, including Austin, Mountain View, and Denver, have taken steps to remove or restrict these systems due to these concerns. So I ask, will Costa Mesa step up and do the same? If we want to be a city that truly protects its residents, especially those most vulnerable, we must ensure our policies and contracts reflect those values. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Priscilla, and I am a resident of Costa Mesa, a constituent of District 5 with Arliss Reynolds, and I have been an organizer with Costa Mesa Mutual Aid and Food Not Bombs. I, too, want to echo the same gratefulness I think that this city has shown that they stand with their constituents. They have listened to our questions and our requests to make our city more safe, and I just want to say thank you so much. You're restoring my faith in city politics, but also there's always work to be done, and there's always time for improvement. I also urge that the flock system be either audited, and if you find that through your audit that there has been a breach of contract according to the policy that the police department has with flock systems, then there needs to be accountability for that. I recently read an article that the Mountain View Police Department has a similar policy where they prohibit the use of all of flock camera systems, of that being shared with federal agencies like ICE. And when they recently did an audit, they figured out that against their will and their knowledge, national searches, they found that there was some of their data was illegally shared with ICE. And so even if you do have a policy that prohibits the sharing of our very private data of movement of residents in Costa Mesa, we are no longer in an administration where we can rely on our data being safe. And your policy was established in 2022 in a different administration. We are in a new administration. Policy is always evolving, and I think we just have to be flexible, adapt, and it makes sense for us to be more aligned with the dozens of municipalities that have decided to completely cancel their flock contracts across the nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I'm Allison, a lawyer and community volunteer. First, I'd like to thank the city for posting the Know Your Rights information on the city website and bus stops. I'm also very grateful that most of the council members expressed their genuine concern and solidarity during the January 20th council meeting. This fosters a safe space for the community to voice our concerns and ideas and promotes a collaborative effort. Mayor Stevens, I hope that you're able to share some thoughts and ideas you learned at the mayor's conference. I'd also like to thank Chief LaPointe for filing the FOIA request with DHS. I had hoped that this could serve as a method to track kidnappings in Costa Mesa. However, it sounds like DHS has failed to comply entirely. I urge the city to continue submitting these requests and file an administrative appeal and litigate the matter if these requests continue to be ignored. DHS's lack of transparency is no surprise, so we cannot solely rely on getting this data from them. Therefore, we need to look at what methods would result in the most accurate data. This goes back to what I've advocated before. Our police approaching these armed, masked men and asking for their name and badge numbers and documenting their identities along with the identity of the community member being taken. This is the best evidence gathered by our police in that moment that can accomplish several points: track who's being taken, mitigate legal risk of constitutional claims against the city, serve as compliance with the No Vigilantes Act, and preserve the ability to hold federal agents accountable. I would also hope that police presence would lessen the likelihood of these masked thugs shooting and brutalizing migrants and legal observers. This also does not interfere with immigration enforcement, and our police have the authority and duty to enforce the No Vigilantes Act now that it's survived judicial review and is effective in 2 days. We know that people continue to be kidnapped in Costa Mesa, such as Wilver Garcia on January 6th on Bristol and Paularino, and 2 people on Harbor at bus stops during the last week of January. With federal agents set to move into offices bordering Costa Mesa at 2020 Main Street, we should expect increased activity. Councilmember Gameros, during your mic drop abolish ICE moment, you stated that our police act with integrity and should not be confused with ICE. The community wants to believe that, but when we're seeing police from other cities collaborate with federal agents, that's an understandable concern. So we need words to align with action. That's the definition of accountability. The urgency of this moment calls on our police and all of us who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution to act with moral clarity and meet this moment with necessary action and meaningful resistance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is Rachel. I am a longtime resident of Costa Mesa. First, I'd like to echo others' comments and thank you for the actions you've taken to make this a safe and inclusive city for all. And I'm here today to also ask you to cancel Costa Mesa's contract with Flock Safety. Flock provides Costa Mesa with a citywide network of automated license plate reader cameras, or ALPRs. Every time a vehicle passes a Flock camera, it logs the license plate, date, time, location, and vehicle characteristics. Per Costa Mesa policy, these records are stored for at least 365 days, and they can be searched by any agency that has access. I have many concerns about Flock, but I'd like to focus on the potential for misuse and illegal access of our resident data. Excuse me. All California state and local law enforcement agencies have access to Costa Mesa's Flock camera records as part of the network sharing. And by law, California law enforcement is barred from sharing ALPR data with out-of-state and federal agencies or using it for immigration enforcement. And while our Costa Mesa Police Department may be following the law, other agencies are not. The nonprofit newsroom, Cal Matters, found that these laws have been routinely violated. For example, they found that California agencies violated the law more than 100 times in May 2025 alone, based on a network audit. Of that, 9 Southern California agencies searched for ALPR records on behalf of ICE and Border Patrol, including the Orange County Sheriff's Department. Because of that, to protect our Costa Mesa residents and visitors' civil liberties, I ask you to please cancel the contract with Flock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm a resident of in Costa Mesa. I went to elementary school and high school here, and I have engaged in community patrols since, or legal observance since, for the past 8 months, and I am really concerned about the Flock surveillance system. I want to speak in honor of Marimar Martinez, who is the U.S. citizen who was shot 5 times by immigration enforcement in Chicago. On October 25th, 2025, ICE agent Aaron Pata aimed a gun at me, threatening my life. I did nothing to deserve it. Like Marimar, I did not deserve to have a gun pointed at my face, and she didn't deserve to be shot 5 times. Everything is bad right now. I am doing everything that I can to follow the rules and do everything right, and they almost killed me. I have genuine concerns about being surveilled or watched by these people. We don't know who's working in ICE. We don't know who they're recruiting. I mean, they're violent. I went to Costa Mesa PD to talk about my concerns, and unfortunately, this person interpreted my fears as being needed to conduct a mental health assessment, and where he blocked my car, and it's just made me realize that I'm not known, and that maybe these people who are also working in law enforcement are falling for the rhetoric that we're domestic terrorists and that we're bad people. But like Marimar, I'm not. I have no criminal record. I'm doing everything that I can to play by the rules, and I don't want to be followed and observed, and they have taken pictures of my plate and my face. I think that this can be used to track and surveil women. There have been reports of women who have received an abortion being followed across state lines. There have been other instances where, in Kansas, an officer has wrongly used the Flock surveillance system to track an ex-girlfriend. I think this is dangerous for women. I think it's dangerous for women like me who are in the front lines facing these men with guns who, I don't have any weapons. I'm no threat. And it blows my mind the fact that Aaron Pata is still allowed to be active in ICE. He's still allowed to walk through our community, and he has continued to cause harm onto others, even the elderly. He is dangerous. And if we can't trust law enforcement, we can't trust our government right now. Everything is bad. And I am completely 100% against the flock surveillance system. I don't trust what the intentions are for. I have genuine fears for my safety and the safety of other women on the front lines.
Thank you.
Buenas noches.
5 minutes for Juana. Go ahead.
Gracias por los 5 minutos. Pues mi nombre es Juana Trejo y formo parte de la organización de promotoras de salud del condado de Orange. Vengo a agradecer por la labor que está haciendo Arlis con el equipo de estar llevando despensas a nuestra familia.
Good evening. Thank you for the 5 minutes. My name is Juana Trejo. I am with Organization Promotoras de Salud. And I'm here to thank you and thank
Arlis.
Arlis. I'm here to thank Arlis for all the food that it has been provided to our families and the meals.
Para mí, ustedes son una de las mejores mesas que ha habido en la historia, ¿verdad? Sé que para muchos dicen que no, pero para mí sí. Porque ahorita en este tiempo que estamos viviendo de crisis, sé que hay otras personas que nos están apoyando, por ejemplo, Andy Godínez, que nos está proveyendo material para prevenir, ¿verdad? Cuando esté la justicia cerca.
For me, you are one of the best consuls that we've had in history. Some people might disagree with me, but these are times of crisis, and Andy Godínez, it's been very helpful in these difficult times.
También quiero agradecer por ese dinero que donaron ustedes para que se ayudaran a las familias. Sé que la última vez que vine dijeron que habían sido como 77 familias. Y gracias por eso. Sé que el otro fondo que destinaron para otra organización, pues no lo utilizó como creímos que lo iba a utilizar.
I'm also here to thank you for the money that was assignated to help families. I heard it helped about 77 families. I want to thank you for that, but I also know that other part of the money was not used in the way that it was promised to be used for the families.
Mi pregunta sería para ustedes si ustedes tienen algún registro de cuánta gente ha sido detenida aquí en Costa Mesa.
My question to you is, do you guys have a number, a registry of how many people have been detained here in Costa Mesa?
Como autoridad que son, pienso que quizás puedan tener un registro, ¿no? Pienso.
As an authority that you are, I believe that you might have a registry or numbers, I will think, correct?
También quiero agradecer al Departamento de Policía porque sé que están haciendo acto de presencia en nuestras comunidades.
I also want to thank the police department because I know that they are showing up and being present in our communities.
Espero que las personas que se van a promover para este año tengan la misma pasión que tienen algunos de servir.
And I really hope that the individuals who are going to promote this year have the same passion as you to serve.
Y que no nada más vengan a ocupar una silla por ocuparla, que vengan a hacer su trabajo como lo han hecho muchos de ustedes.
And not just come here and take a seat, but in other words, to do the same work that you guys, to the kind of job that you guys been doing, the same work.
Y si no, que vengan a presenciar aquí las reuniones para que vengan a aprender cómo se hace el trabajo que muchos de ustedes están haciendo.
And for those future council members, they're more than welcome to come here and be present so they can see how you guys do the excellent job that you are doing.
Gracias. Dios los bendiga.
Thank you and blessings.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Newport Maureen, please.
Newport Marine, you have the floor.
Hi there. I'm sorry, I should say my name, Ann Stenton. That has the wrong name. Apologies. Dear Mayor Stevens and Council, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment via Zoom. My name is Ann Stenton, and I'm a resident of Costa Mesa, a mom and a school counselor. I commend this council, city staff, and our community for the work that has been done so far to support all of our residents here in Costa Mesa. I'd especially like to thank our Costa Mesa Police and Council for their attempts to obtain information about the individuals who have been taken and where they've gone to. I urge this council and Costa Mesa Police to continue documenting their efforts to obtain this information via the Freedom of Information Act. I can't imagine the level of fear many in our communities are operating under day in and day out under the current circumstances we find ourselves in. We've heard a little bit about it tonight from other speakers, but I do get a glimpse of it when I speak to my students that wonder if they'll still be in the country for their high school graduation in the spring, or they're suddenly asking me for work permits because they need to help support their families, or when I see videos of people being violently taken off the street from their jobs. We're all aware of the situation. One action our city can take to alleviate some of this fear is to end its contract with Flock, like many other cities have done, including the city of Santa Cruz and others. Last month, the Santa Cruz Police Chief Escalante confirmed the city's Flock data had been accessed by out-of-state agencies. As Councilmember O'Hara stated, the question isn't whether we trust our own intent or even our own officers' intent. It's whether we can guarantee our data won't be used in ways that conflict with our values and create fear in our community. The potential for misuse of this data isn't limited to agencies like ICE. I respectfully request the city follow suit with the more than 24 other cities in the state and country and terminate its contract with Flock to prevent the misuse of data that conflicts with our local values and drives unnecessary fear in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll close public comment then. Thank you very much. And now's the time for council member committee reports, comments, and suggestions. So first up is from District 5, Councilmember Arliss Reynolds. Hold on. I'll get you. Go.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. A number of things I want to get through here. So I'm going to start with a thank you to some of the team members. Last week, some team members really helped out at the last minute, some while on vacation. So Alma, Monique, Sandy, and our park ambassadors, thank you for scrambling. They helped with a last minute need really to capture an opportunity to receive a bunch of donations and get those out to community organizations. So appreciate you all. You really saved the day. A quick update from the Active Transportation Committee. At the last meeting, we got a excellent report from PD on collision data and analysis of that collision data. Super helpful, thank you. It was really well done. There was a great discussion, and I just want the council to be aware of that. Also, the committee is planning to work this year to help develop a sort of a standard report that can come to council on a biannual or annual basis, which is actually already in our code. So we'll be smarter about collision and where there are safety issues on our streets. Since our last meeting, I attended the annual foundation gala for the Orange County Soccer Club. Really, it's easy to forget that we have a professional soccer club in Orange County. It's a really amazing group. It's large enough that they have an international presence, small enough that you can sit in the same room with the owner of the club and share jokes. I bring it up because they are interested in working with us on a Costa Mesa night. So this would be a night where like Costa Mesa is the theme. We could potentially get tickets for some of our community groups, free tickets to come to the game, lots of opportunities to just sort of celebrate Costa Mesa and invite people to be together. So I'm looking for Director Gruner in the crowd, but I'll follow up with him, there he is, on that opportunity. They've been a really great partner in a lot of ways in investing in the community.
On just a quick note on housing, and Director Tai, I'll follow up with you on this. I had a really good conversation that I'm thankful for with some property owners for some of our Measure K sites. They were reluctant about Measure K process, understand the need to build housing that's affordable for their workers. They're concerned about how we're balancing the potential displacement of jobs if there is housing construction. And so I wanted to just understand that a little bit more. Certainly, I know the intent of our council is to build housing that people who are working here now can afford so they don't have to drive in. But there is a potential flip side to that. So I just want to acknowledge that conversation and follow up on kind of the different strategies there. On the flock question, this is something that we've discussed internally. There are controls, as I understand. Our city's policy is to not share that. It is illegal to share that. I do share the concerns raised in the public about how so much of the data that is out there is being misused right now to target people. So I'm going to ask our city attorney, I'm sure others will have comments on this too, but I'm going to ask our city attorney or whoever can take this on, just sort of write down the current policies and restrictions related to the data. I like this idea of an audit just to confirm that those policies of not sharing our data are being followed. And then potentially some recommendations to ensure there are no breaches. If there is risk of a breach, I would be supportive of ending that arrangement given the data privacy, absolute breaches of data privacy that's happening right now. In the same theme, there was some comments mentioning really good work in our community, driven by, at this point, hundreds of volunteers who are supporting community members in a lot of different ways. There is an event tomorrow night to invite more community members into that work, to share more about that work. This is from supporting families with food donations to doing Ice Watch, especially around schools. If you're interested in getting involved or learning more, there's an event tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. in Costa Mesa. I would, if you're interested, invite you to look at the Costa Mesa Mutual Aid Instagram page for more information on that. At that event, there will be an update by the Orange County Rapid Response Network, which I think right now is the best source of information about detentions in Costa Mesa. They've been pulling those numbers the last couple of days, so we'll get the clearest picture we can get about what's been happening in Costa Mesa. Okay, and then lastly, I'm gonna ask the mayor if we can close the meeting in honor of Kathleen Andrews. Kathleen Andrews was beloved by many in the Costa Mesa community. Warmly remembered as a beam of sunshine. She passed away in January at the age of 62. Those who knew her remember her as a longtime activist for the greater good. She had a passion for lifelong learning and inspired people around her from her early days at Oberlin College, San Diego State University, UCLA, and Oregon State. In Costa Mesa and Orange County, she was an active volunteer with the Citizens Climate Lobby, a champion for our environment, and was instrumental in bringing the sustainability decathlon to Costa Mesa at the fairgrounds in 2024. So she will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up from District 6 is Councilmember Jeff Pettis.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens, council members. Yeah, Arliss touched a little bit on the small businesses and folks and the community engagement when it comes to this HCD and the housing process moving forward rapidly. I echo those sentiments wholeheartedly. I think the community engagement piece is crucial, and especially that at this time when we have to move at the speed that we're moving, there's a lot of information coming out, and I get a little worried when I see folks like, big dogs like the Seekers from People showing up at the council meeting last time with their concerns. Tells me that the engagement, maybe from big all the way down to small, I'm not pointing any fingers at staff here. I just think that it's really important to focus on the engagement piece. Even if the news isn't great, the more you communicate clearly, openly and in many different ways, the better things will go as they move forward. So when I first got elected to council, one of the first things I did was that we made some appointments for these commissions and committees, and I made mine, and I've made it a point to watch, not all of them, but I watch Planning Commission all the way through every week. I watch the Arts Commission all the way through and try to get, I watch most of Parks, so it's hard to do it all, but Planning's pretty buttoned up. I think they do a great job, and they're a great advisory panel to our team. Arts, we're working on them, and they're doing great work, and I think that they're moving along well. They did bring up in this last meeting, they had some budgetary concerns, and I think it's really important that we focus on that. They made a request, and thank you, Brian Gruner, for honoring the requests they made. And I know this just by watching the council meeting and seeing the email traffic, that they're going to have a finance committee representative, thank you, Carol, show up to the meeting next time so they can get their questions answered. Can't ask for more than that. So I appreciate that very much. And I'll be watching as much as I can going forward to make sure all this is going as planned. And the last thing I want to say is the participation from the public is so important, regardless of where we stand on issues. It's encouraging me to see people participate in the process, and I wish we saw more of that. The more of that, the better. Example being, I had a student reach out to me as a council representative, knowing that I'm in the healthcare field in a leadership role at the VA, and she had some questions about how the community nursing is a big thing that you learn about in nursing school back in the day, and she had questions for me about what role a nurse could play in the process, in the sausage making we do here at the city level. And I was happy to answer all of her questions. And there's actually a lot individual people can do from different professions to participate in the process and give us advice on the council. And one of my recommendations was for her to show up. And the more you show up and your face is known, you just might get appointed to one of these commissions and committees, and which are invaluable to us as individual council members to drive policy forward. So thank you, public. Appreciate you. And that's all I have tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, council member. Next up from District 1 is council member Mike Bewley.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, members of the public. This 2026 didn't quite start out the way I planned, and I apologize to the members, the council and public. I had a work conflict on the 3rd, and then I had a little health issue at the last session. But, you know, I take my role up here seriously, and I try to make a point to be prepared and be here at every one of these sessions. And I was more than a little frustrated. I wasn't able to attend the last couple. But I could go on for a great length of time because I've been pretty busy since the holidays and in the last couple of sessions. But I'm just going to tick off a few things in the interest of time and give some shout outs or whatever. First, I want to thank Carol in Finance and City Manager. I've taken a few meetings with some different members of FIPAC, and they didn't necessarily express a concern, but we did an exchange of some information. We're about to head into the budgeting session, looking at 25, 26, and it was going to be extremely helpful to me and hopefully some of the other members of my council if we could get first drafts, if you will, to FIPAC with relatively sufficient time so they could give us some meaningful feedback. And I reached out to both of you, and it seems that that's moving forward, and I greatly appreciate that, because as I've said, during the first year, my first rodeo, you know, I get up here and I try to make the best decisions I can based on the best information provided. And when we have community members experienced with unique capabilities, and they're willing to volunteer and put their time out there, you know, I think it's our job as a city, and it's part of our governmental process to get their input so that we can have some transparency, and I can feel like members of the public are, you know, who's watching the watchers, as I say. So I appreciate you guys taking that to heart, and thank you for that. I did attend a district meeting. A lot of staff was there. Mayor Stevens was there. An issue that was on everybody's mind to hear a great deal up here at council is the e-bike issue, and these marauding gangs of e-bikers making life difficult for everybody. But what was touched on at that time, we have jurisdictional issues with council, and we have city ordinances, and then you have the school district. They have their own jurisdiction and can do things. And one issue that was brought up is the school district was looking just to ban e-bikes. And of course, that brought out some concerns for the walkable city and the active transport, people who are interested in, reducing any restrictions that may impact mobility around the city. And I think what kind of came out of that, and it's an ask, is that I asked staff to consider some sort of study session so we can look and see what is being proposed, what are the issues that need to be addressed at the district level. And of course, when those bikes leave the school, now they're on city streets and city pass, and now it's our city issue. And pivoting on that a little further, I went and met with our senatorial rep, Dr. Choi, and he informed me that at the state level, there's a potential bill making its way through Congress up there, where looking to certify, you get a certification permit, and we actually put, eventually what that does, you'll tag, permit, and put licenses on the various e-bikes. And what a motivation behind that, and I think it can assist law enforcement, because my understanding is there's a bit of a stand-down policy. We don't want to go chasing these guys on their e-bikes. It could harm them, it could harm others. And if we can at least identify some of these e-bikes, it might help us to enforce some of our ordinances and our laws and make the community safer for everybody, the e-bike riders and members of the public. Another shout out to Carrie Ty and Cecilia and Jeff Toll. My life caused me to cross paths with a local business owner and a contractor, and they were trying to get what was the Santa Monica seafood converted to a bear flag. And as fate would have it, I'm listening to this fellow because we spent a lot of days together. And he was frustrated a little bit with Tessa, and it's like a prime example of we have business members looking to come to our business, open businesses, generate revenue for the city, and we really should try to move heaven and earth to expedite this process. And I did a reach out to Carrie and Cecilia, and they got the rest of the staff involved. And this gentleman showed up with his architect, his supervisor, and everybody, and at the window, and we pushed it through, and they got up and they got running. So that's the positive. One thing that occurred to me is as I was kind of close to that process and I got to hear his input, and maybe there's something like that, and I had some side conversations with city manager and others, and I won't go into that here in detail, but we need to find a way that if significant members of our community are bogged down in Tessa, that they can find a way to exit Tessa and get a live body and get that kind of personal attention that they need to push that through. And there may be something along those lines there, but that's for a further discussion. But I just wanted to thank you guys for, in this instance, your work resulted in a very happy experience, and we got a happy contractor here in the city. Wanted to thank Brian Gruner and his parks people. I heard a lot from a number of my constituents over in the state streets, and they've been talking to me for a while about some issues they have down at Moon Park, and you took the time to schedule a meeting with them. Unfortunately, that work commitment I had, I was unable to attend that, but I appreciate it, and they have all reached out to me, and they've got a path forward to try to make their issues kind of front and center here at the city, but I appreciate you getting involved in that. And yeah, just last I'll touch on, I did go to a Costa Mesa United committee event, and it was great to see a lot of staff there, Brian Gruner, a lot of the other parks individuals down there, and I learned a lot about the complexity of allocating field time and making sure all the soccer players and the football players and the baseball players, and they all get the opportunity to hear each other out and work out field allocation and things like that. So that's enough out of me. I'm back. I was gone for a couple sessions, but I'm glad to be back doing the people's business.
Thanks, welcome back. From District 2, Councilmember Lauren Gameros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few things I did want to speak about tonight. First of all, I want to thank the community for coming and stepping up to the mic and reaching out regarding not only their feelings about what's taking place in the community, but some of the things that they're concerned with. I want you to know that I have a heartfelt concern and I feel the same way. I've reached out to our police department for a number of things, and one of the things that was instilled into me from our police department, and this is the leadership of our police department, and I will quote, "We are here to protect the community. Their safety is our number one concern." I want you to remember that moving forward, and I don't want to conflate what's going on with DHS, ICE, and Homeland Security and merge that into with what our community police department is, what it does, and what it stands for. They're here to protect our community and make sure that they're safe. I support everything I'm hearing from everybody here, but I just want everyone to understand that when it comes to supporting our police department, we need to make sure that that's the first priority. And I personally not only will stand behind our police department, I'll stand in front. The same thing that I'm telling you, I told the fire department, I'll be the first guy that goes out to fill a boot if there's a real problem. I'll go out there and speak for whatever needs to be done, and I want the community to know that. Some of the things that I've heard tonight regarding the flock camera systems, when this came up originally, we had several in-depth conversations regarding the camera systems. We were concerned, just as you are now. We had different reasons for the concerns. ICE wasn't necessarily the issue, but we were told emphatically that the flock camera systems are used to engage with suspects that have stolen vehicles. Now, if something is being used beyond that, I'm not going to speak to it. If our police department has an opportunity, they can speak to that, but I most certainly don't want to speak for something that's out of my wheelhouse as far as how flock is used specifically in the city of Costa Mesa. I want to conclude with that. Some other things I want to talk about. You know, we talk a lot about affordability in the community, and recently, I actually didn't know, but there was a home just across the street from me that came up for sale, and I didn't know. And it was a Saturday morning. It was this last Saturday. There were hundreds of people out in front of my house, congregating everywhere. I thought there was a party or something. I didn't know what was going on. House went for sale, and everybody I talked to said, "Oh yeah, it's a screaming deal. This is the cheapest house we've seen. Over $1 million." That's $6,000 a month if you can pick that up, and it was a fixer. And it was very disheartening to think that that's where we're at right now, is if you want to buy a home in Costa Mesa, you'll be lucky to find an R1 front yard, backyard type of home for $1 million. It's unfortunate that's where we're at, but that's where we're at. I'm working hard as I can to try and make opportunities available for people to be able to get into home ownership. And if there's something that I can do, please reach out. I was shocked, needless to say. Something else I want to speak on. So some of the constituents came up to speak with us regarding the tennis center. We as a council have an obligation to make sure that the city services are here to provide service to the community. And the tennis center is offered as a community service. So when we found out that it wasn't providing what it needed to provide, we reached out to Brian Gruner, and I want to acknowledge Brian, because we came to him at the last minute and we said, "Are you able to come and run the tennis center right now and make it work?" He said, I can do it. Right now, we haven't missed a beat, haven't heard a thing about anyone not being able to go and play tennis or whatever it is that they want to do. So I really just want to thank Brian for his effort. I know you had to move staff around, and I know that you took a personal step out of your way to make sure that it's running as smooth as can be, and I just want to thank you for that and acknowledge you. And then finally, I had a chance to talk to the acting director, Adam Arrett of the Soup Kitchen, and he let me know over the weekend that they've benchmarked 25 families to receive food boxes, and right now they have a capacity for 75 more families to receive food boxes. The Soup Kitchen is available for any family that needs food. Right now, there's room for 75 families who need food for in-person, and if you need to have it delivered, arrangements can be made for that as well. Their farmers market was a huge success, and they're going to be available every other Saturday for food boxes. So if anyone needs anything, if you need help with food, reach out to Adam, reach out to Someone Cares Soup Kitchen, reach out to staff here. If you have to, you can reach out to me, and I'll be glad to try and facilitate whatever it is I can. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next up is from District 3, Councilmember Andrea Marr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, on FLOC, we had previously looked into some of the settings and the extent to which we could share information or not share information with other agencies. One of the public commenters specifically mentioned the city of Mountain View. I would just encourage staff and our city attorney to go back and look at what happened in Mountain View. It sounds like apparently there was a setting that allowed for search that Mountain View was not aware that was turned on. Similar story with Santa Clara. So there might be some additional nuance that we want to make sure we're looking into. Thank you. Also wanted to express my condolences to Kathleen Andrews' longtime partner Lance, and everyone who knew her. Kathy was one of those people that I encountered kind of over and over again in different ways throughout Costa Mesa, whether it was through environmental work, through climate activism, through her church, through her group of friends that would share, like do clothing drives and clothing swaps. I was really shocked to hear of her passing, and best wishes to her family. And last but not least, apparently I was too nuanced in the last meeting, so abolish ICE. Thanks.
From District 4, Mayor Pro Tem Manuel Chavez.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I have 5 comments. 1 congrats, 2 updates, and then 2 follow-up for public comment. First of all, to all those to celebrate, happy Lunar New Year. For those to celebrate the Catholic faith, happy start of Lent tomorrow. And for those to celebrate, happy first night Ramadan tomorrow. First, the 2 updates. I had the pleasure of joining the mayor as well as Assemblymember Cody Pichi-Norris at a groundbreaking in my district for Ketchum Live-Oak Park. For those that don't know, Ketchum Live-Oak Park is a pocket park in my district off Victoria Street and Pomona that's named after 2 fallen officers, the only 2 that have ever passed away in line of duty. And it was a beautiful celebration. We're reminiscing about how this project really began with a simple idea. When I first got to City Council, I told then Mayor Foley, I said, hey, why can't we move the wall on Live-Oak Park just a few feet to Victoria Street so kids have a few more feet to play? And then Senator Foley, if you know her, said, dream bigger. So the idea was born that we would ask and successfully convince Assemblymember Pichi-Norris to give us funding, $1.2 million for a brand new park. We're now in process to see that vision come to life, which is very exciting for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, that it kind of demonstrates the power of collaboration with other agencies. 2, that it, again, signifies our commitment to open space in the community. And 3, again, how we're honoring those that have served our community through that park. So thank you to CMPD for being there. Thank you to the mayor for being there. Excited to see that project done by the end of the year. Second of my updates was I had the pleasure of joining the Estancia High School Chamoy and Latinos Unidos Club last Friday at one of their meetings on campus. So they requested me to come and speak about what City of Costa Mesa is doing in terms of the ICE rates. So it was my pleasure to share with the students how we funded food programs, how we funded legal aid, how we are working with PD to make sure that folks know that we do not work with DHS and other federal agencies. Our local PD serves only our community. And what really gives me a lot of joy, and I share this because I was once a student at high school, is I'm always one that looks at the future when it comes to the youth, because I was once a youth. And I don't want to jinx anything, of course, but I'm really excited in 10 years to see what leaders come out of this. Because when I was in their age, I was growing up in an environment where a prior council was evicting my neighbors in apartments to create them into condominiums. And that opened my eyes to, oh, if you're not involved in policy making, you will be removed from your city you care about. And seeing these students approach this difficult time, not just with fear, but with fear and determination to solve the problem, to me is very uplifting for our country. So I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me. Thanks to the student leaders from Chamoy and Ríos Unidos. And I really genuinely cannot wait to see who rises up from this in a couple years' time. Finally, on the two public comment updates. First of all, when it comes to the flock cameras, I want to thank my council peers for mentioning the facts, which is when we did discuss this item way back when in different administration, there was concerns we had about the sharing component of it. I think it's appropriate for us to get a report from the police department on what our policy is and how we're ensuring that we're not sharing information that will put our residents in danger. I think that will help clarify a lot of people's concerns and fears. And again, the one thing I'll always share when it comes to these difficult times is I cannot control what other cities do, but what I can control is what we do in Costa Mesa. So I think having that conversation, that update from the chief or PD will be really helpful for us to really see if there is a need for us to change a policy or if we're already doing the things we need to be doing. So I think that'll be very appropriate and helpful for everyone in the community. And finally, just real quickly on the e-bike thing, because it does genuinely irk me that our school district would be considering banning e-bikes. A lot of the kids in our community have to rely on e-bikes to go to school and go to work because their parents either are working themselves or don't have the means to get them a vehicle. It is inherently unjust to penalize someone for being poor and having to have a bike versus a car. So I sincerely hope that we don't have to do what remember Billy said and have like a meeting about that, because it's not our jurisdiction per se. But I do want to reiterate that access to an e-bike is some kids' access to a job, some kids' access to good education, and quite frankly, even recreation. So I do not support what they're trying to do there. And for all the questions that are being raised, I will remind everyone that our neighbor in Irvine already has a policy where for kids to ride their e-bikes to school, they need to do a class with the local Irvine PD. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We say, have the locals working nearby and implement it ourselves. And finally, I'd be remiss if I did not mention Kathleen. She was a very kind person. I did not know her very well. I met her when I was so young and new into the politics, but she was always a beacon of joy, and she will definitely be missed. And I also don't want to overstep a little bit, and I don't have the name, unfortunately, but I do know that one of our fellow police officers lost their father recently, too, Mr. Chamness. I want to also end the meeting in his honor, if we can as well.
For sure, I didn't know that. Wow. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Really good comments. Great comments from the public and the council. So thank you, everybody. So as Councilmember Chavez said, to break ground on Ketchum Libel Park was an amazing thing, and it's a culmination of a lot of work. I want to commend his work and his dedication and perseverance, but also all the work done by the staff, Parks Department, and of course the Public Works Department. And we're gonna do the ribbon cutting soon. So a lot of fun stuff is going on in Costa Mesa, a lot of interesting things that are gonna help the youth. And so it's a really exciting time in our city. I went to a ribbon cutting for Changes on Bristol. That's a place that addresses addiction and mental health disorders, and so that was a very moving celebration. Thanks for staff for your support on that. Regarding the flock cameras, yeah, I mean, it's as some of the council members said, we did consider the privacy aspects of it when we went forward with it some time ago. In terms of addressing crime fighting, it's been very successful. We've not only caught a lot of people and recovered a lot of stolen vehicles, solved a lot of crimes, but also it's been a deterrent. Crime is down in Costa Mesa, and in part, and not entirely, but in part because of not just flock, but other technological things that we're doing on the one hand. On the other hand, if there's also risks associated with the use of that, that's something that we need to consider, the extent to which there are risks in other areas that have now emerged, and it's for this council to weigh the benefits and the drawbacks. And so that's something I'm certainly willing to participate in with the data that we need. So I support looking into that, city attorney and the PD, and coming back to us with an appropriate report. Happy Mardi Gras to everybody. That's happening right now. Tomorrow is Ash Wednesday for those people who celebrate Lent. It's coming on you, so you've got to figure out what you're giving up. You got to start tomorrow. And then Happy Lunar New Year to those of you who celebrate Lunar New Year. That starts today. Kathy Andrews. So Kathy Andrews, all the things that everybody said about her is true. I had a specific connection with her because her life partner is my wife's cousin. And so it's weird because I met Kathy long time ago just because she came over to the house. She was Lance's, partner. And so she would come over for Thanksgiving and all kinds of stuff and parties at the house. And I saw her in political circles, I think at the Democratic Club. And I said, well, what are you doing here? She's like, I'm a Democrat and I'm involved in this stuff. I go, well, welcome, it's great. So we became friends at that level too. And all the things that council members Chavez and Reynolds and Marr said about Kathy is true. She was in the Oberlin Hall of Fame. She was a runner. She also had 2 daughters and 2 grandchildren. And so I went to her memorial at Unity Church with our family in Tustin. And she was very involved in that church and did some wonderful things there. And all I can say is when we went over all the things that she did, I felt very inadequate. She was an expert geologist, read every book you can possibly read, and it's a huge loss to our community and to our family. So definitely we will adjourn the meeting for her, and Lance will really appreciate that. And yeah, anyway, and then it's Bruce Chamness, Deputy Chief Jason Chamness' father. I did not know, Jason, that your father had passed away, but I'm sorry about that. And of course, we'll adjourn the meeting also in his honor and memory. So thank you, everybody. And so now we're going to go to City Manager Cecilia Gallardo-Daly's report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I have some announcements. Next Tuesday, February 24th, from 6 to 8 p.m., the Costa Mesa Fire and Rescue Department will host a Meet the Marshal event. It's the kickoff meeting for our Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT. That will take place here at City Hall in the community room. The evening will include an opportunity to meet and chat with Ryan Bohr, Costa Mesa's new fire marshal, and hear from our guest speaker, our interim fire chief, Jason Pyle. So everyone's welcome, not just CERT members. The department will be sharing what's ahead for the revamped and revitalized 2026 Costa Mesa CERT program, including refreshed training, stronger connections across the program, and more opportunities to learn, reconnect, and to serve. We'd love to see you there, be part of the conversation, learn more about this important city program and how you can be part of that team. Next up, we have a Neighborhoods Where We All Belong round of outreach meetings. So residents, business owners, and community organizations are invited to participate in some upcoming community workshops focused on planning for new housing and mixed-use development. The workshops, as I mentioned, are part of the city's Neighborhoods Where We All Belong initiative to implement housing element programs and increase development opportunities in specific parts of the city. The public input at these in-person and virtual events will help the city refine some of the draft strategies for development moving forward. So the workshops will take place both in person and via Zoom. The first one is Monday, March 2nd at 6 p.m. at the Norma Herzog Community Center. The next one will take place via Zoom Thursday, March 5th at 6 p.m. And anyone can join virtually from our website at www.costamesaneighborhoods.com. And the last workshop will take place on Saturday, March 7th at 10 a.m. at the Costa Mesa Senior Center. So we look forward to your participation in that. And then as Councilmember Gameros mentioned, the tennis center is going through an operational management transition period. And as of this Sunday, February 15th, the operations of the Costa Mesa Tennis Center has temporarily transitioned to Agape Tennis Academy. So they'll be overseeing the tennis center until the city works to solicit requests for proposals to find a permanent operator for the tennis center in the coming months. And then just a couple of save the date announcements. Our annual Earth Day Festival and Arbor Day Festivals will both take place on Saturday, April 18th. The Earth Day Festival will be at City Hall, and the Arbor Day activities will be taking place at various parks throughout the city. So more information to come on that. And today, February 17th, is the beginning of the Lunar New Year. So this is the year of the horse, symbolizing intense energy, passion, rapid change, and independence. So to all who celebrate, happy Lunar New Year. And then finally, staff is aware of the recent state legislation that Senate Bill 100 that was recently introduced to address the temporary injunction against the state enforcing the law that restricted federal agents from wearing masks. So we're aware of it. We're analyzing impacts on local law enforcement, and we'll be providing future updates as appropriate. Now, the city attorney would like to provide an update on the city's Freedom of Information Act request. I'm going to turn that over to her. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So now it's time for the city attorney report. I know you got something, so Ms. Hall-Barlow, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to just let the public know that we did make a public records request last August to the Department of Homeland Security, specifically ICE, for a long list of records relating to immigration enforcement actions that have taken place in Costa Mesa since January of 2025. The government's response that we received in September really didn't provide any specific information about incidents specific to Costa Mesa. Instead, they referred us to general information that was posted elsewhere. We have been in contact with Congressman Min's office, and he was unable to give us any sort of information on freedom of information requests based upon specific city names. But however, he did share with us that federal privacy laws exempt a number of individual records, like arrest warrants or removal orders, from FOIA requests. And the best way to get that information on individual records or status is to have the interested persons, families, relatives, people who can show some sort of legal relationship, attorney in fact, an attorney at law, that type of thing, to submit those requests. And you're more likely to get a better response. We have sort of refigured our request and submitted another request, and we will continue to pursue that information as much as possible. And I also wanted to wish everybody a happy Tet, a happy Mardi Gras, happy Ramadan, and happy Tuesday. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Hall-Barlow. Okay, now this consent calendar. This consent calendar is considered routine and will be voted on in one motion unless an item is pulled by the staff, the public, or the council. Madam Clerk, has anybody pulled any items?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, now I want to note that Councilmember Gameros needs to abstain on number 3 because his wife works at Priceless Pets. So noting that abstention, can I get a motion, please?
I'll move to approve the balance.
Okay. I'll second. Call for the question.
Councilmember Reynolds. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we don't have any public hearings. We have one old business item. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Costa Mesa, California, adding Article 7 to Chapter 2 of Title 9 of the Costa Mesa Municipal Code relating to grocery and drugstore staffing standards for self-service checkout stations. And Mr. Barkman, Government Affairs Manager, is here to answer any questions.
Mr. Barkman, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be brief with my presentation. We've had a couple meetings discussing this. As you know, last fall, we came to you and presented some information on the Long Beach City Council's actions to adopt their ordinance. We discussed that in November 4th with you, and then we returned in January with a draft ordinance, and we're directed to make some modifications by a vote of 3-2. Then at our last meeting on February 3rd, 2026, Councilmember Reynolds proposed additional amendments, that were adopted by a vote of 6-0. Specifically, those amendments to the proposed ordinance extend the right for stores to cure violations from 7 to 15 days. The amendments also delay implementation of the ordinance to 60 days after adoption. And additional amendment requires only that signage is posted stating that self-checkout is limited to about 15 items. And the in-store notifications are revised to eliminate reference to enforcement options. Additionally, the council had asked us to report back to the council within a year with an update on implementation. Just a summary of the kind of main points of the proposed ordinance. It applies to food retail establishments over 15,000 square feet, and then those over 85,000 square feet where 10% of the sale floor is dedicated to non-taxable merchandise. The ordinance also applies to all drug retail establishments. Basically, the ordinance requires 1 employee per 3 stations, requires signage at the self-checkout station, again, that limiting the items of about 15 items, and prohibits items locked or with theft deterrent measures from going through self-checkout. The ordinance is continued to be enforced through private right of action, again, with a 15 days to cure, penalties of $100 per day, $1,000 maximum per employee per day, with the ability to also recover attorney's fees and costs. With that, I'll take questions, and our recommendation is to adopt the ordinance.
Yes, of course. Oh, do you have questions?
Yeah, I've got a few questions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
I was glad to see that this was coming back before us, and it was an item I had hoped to question on and comment on at the last session. And I did review the last session via the Costa Mesa channel. But that said, just a few questions, and I guess if we get ready to vote, I'll reserve my comments for that time. First off, Labor Relations Act, I don't know if that's staff or city attorney. Does that pretty much occupy this space, or it's a pretty significant statutory scheme when it comes to regulating mandatory collective bargaining requirements and union activity?
If this were directed at union activity or collective bargaining agreements, that would be problematic, but it's not.
And is it a fair statement that California has probably got one of the most significant wage and hour labor law statutory scheme in the nation?
I would say that's true.
And this was brought to us initially. There was a grocers group and some grocer employees expressing some of their concerns. And I don't know if this would be for city attorney, more for staff. Is it a fair statement that the grocers themselves probably have a personal incentive to deter theft?
That was their statement to us that early on when we met, that they argued that they were taking several measures to address retail theft.
If shoplifting, theft's a concern, if I own a store, I'd be concerned about losing product and losing money. So they've got a business incentive to kind of monitor some of these theft concerns.
Correct, that's what they've stated.
And if they needed additional staffing, you would think the economics of it might encourage them to, on their own, implement some additional staffing.
Yeah, I guess summarizing the comments that the grocers made to us, that was their argument, yes.
Yeah. And there were some concerns about safety and putting staff in harm's way or putting the public in harm's way. And here's maybe the litigation attorney in me. If you've got third parties or even employees being put in harm's way and being exposed to injury, grocers probably have an economic incentive not to be getting sued for premises liability and negligence in their staffing. So they'd have an incentive in that regard to watch out and to push back against some of these safety concerns.
Yes, again, that was one of their arguments.
And is it my understanding that there has been some collective bargaining in regards to this issue, either at the state level or the local level?
Yes, correct. For some of the stores covered by the collective bargaining agreements here in Southern California, we discussed some information at the last meeting comparing the requirements in those agreements compared to the Long Beach ordinance and ours.
Okay. And this ordinance we're proposing, it's not directed just at the collective bargaining, but it would encompass stores that are probably subject to those collective bargaining agreements.
To the stores not subject to them. It would apply to all stores, yes.
Yeah, it would apply to all stores.
Yes.
So the larger stores that have engaged and run the gauntlet of the Labor Relations Act and California's laws, they'll be covered by this as well.
Correct, yes.
Okay, those are all my questions.
Thanks, Counselor. Sorry, Councilman. I did that on purpose. All right, any other questions? No? Okay, let's open it up for the public. Seeing nobody in the chambers, anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Andrew Barnes, please.
Mr. Barnes, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I find this whole issue to be just not worth the council's time, honestly. Councilmember Bewley, I think you asked some great questions. I think that if we were really concerned about automation and job savings, we would have, like the Oregon law for our gas stations, we would have employees working gas stations. You wouldn't be able to pump your own gas. That would actually create a lot of jobs in Costa Mesa. I think the ATMs also should be banned if we follow through with this statute. You can go automate your own bank transactions without any supervision. I mean, my issue with this whole thing is that it seems like we're following the leader. Like the words behind the dais, which should actually be on the other wall so that the city council members could see those words, that was just us following somebody else's lead. This doesn't make any sense. There are so few jobs that we're protecting here. Instead, the city council should be spending all of this time figuring out how to incentivize employment. Here's an idea for you. Restaurants that want to have open air tables like we had during COVID, why don't we look at that policy and institute it where it makes sense? There are places in my neighborhood that are now suffering, restaurants that are now suffering because they don't have this access and the notoriety and the advertising that sidewalk tables give them. And so we're punishing these entities that could employ people. If this is about employment, let's spend our time on more productive areas. Regulating how I check out in a grocery store we're stepping over $1 to pick up a dime. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Wendy Leese, please.
Ms. Leese, you have the floor.
Oh, that came up fast. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Costa Mesa City Council. I don't usually comment, but I am compelled tonight. You know, my parents and maybe your parents used to say, if I wanted to do something, well, you know, if so-and-so said jump off a cliff, would you do it? And I'd say, well, no. So I'm saying to you, just because Long Beach wants to jump off a cliff, does Costa Mesa jump off the same cliff? As a longtime, 54 years this year, taxpayer, as a former council person, I see this as the camel's nose in the tent. It's an aspect of what we learned in 1984, Big Brother. I see no benefit for the city of Costa Mesa taxpayers to support our staff to monitor and to regulate and to fine businesses. This is a free enterprise problem. If there's theft, then that's the store owner's problem, for Pete's sake. Why meddle in private business? We're trying to shrink government, not grow it and put more burdens on our staff. So I would hope that some of you, 4 of you, would vote against this. And I'm not the only Costa Mesa taxpayer that believes in limited government. And I think you're misguided by Long Beach, and I hope you vote no. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No further, Mr. Mayor.
Close public comment. Councilmember Marr, do you have a motion?
I'll move to approve the staff recommendation.
Second by Councilmember Reynolds. Do you have anything to say in support of your motion, Councilmember?
Nothing additional that I haven't spoken to in the last 2 meetings.
Councilmember Reynolds?
I shared my comments at the last meeting. I will say I invite the energy we heard in the comments today to our housing rezoning conversations. Thanks.
Councilmember Pettis?
Just for the record that I'm about to upset my friend Arliss, but we did agree for a week, 2 weeks total, so that's a win, okay, going forward. So I did, I made the mistake of what I was not able to find. I hoped I could come here with some sales tax data, but I don't know, to blame the researcher. I wasn't able to find any Long Beach sales tax data, but I did do some guerrilla research on my own time, not as a council member or in my official capacity, because I work in the city of Long Beach. And I went to 3 grocery stores and talked to some folks that work at the self-checkout and asked their opinion. And I'd say 90% of them hate it. And they're the 3 stores that I visited, and I'll say the chain, Vons, it's actually a Staters, we only have one Staters here, and a Ralph's. They shut down some checkout lanes, and it wasn't gone entirely, but it was down to 1 or 2 from 6 in the 3 I went to. And here in Costa Mesa, I went around town here, the Vons by my house, Ralph's down the street, again in my own capacity, not identifying myself as a council member, and asked what people thought if we went down from 6 like Vons to 1 or 2. And a lot of them did say that they would go down the street to the Ralph's in Westcliff. So I'm very concerned about migration of our sales tax dollars to other cities. And I am about free market capitalism and regulating business. I'm just mostly concerned with on the staff report with the page, I forget what, second page, when the mandatory hiring requirements. I think that's too onerous, so I'll be a no tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Bewley?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I think this is a very bad idea. And I did see on January 20th, the other session that I missed, I thought it was relatively close. I think there was a few absentees that night, and I was a little surprised that it had the 6-0 vote at the last session we had. But my take on it is it's the old phrase, this is a solution in search of a problem. We got federal law that's protecting labor, mandating collective bargaining. We've got state law that goes beyond that. If you're in the legal profession, California is very well known. I mean, I've advised all kinds of business litigation clients. You can comply. You can have 5 HR heads dot your I's, cross your T's. You will get sued. You will lose. I mean, you cannot comply with California's labor law successfully. My concern is, and I was much appreciative of this council, that there was a lot of back and forth. It looks like a lot of work went in to try to modify the ordinance and to make it more palatable for the grocers and those being impacted. But my sincere concern for this council and this city, and I'm hoping that some of those votes that were on the fence back in January may reconsider and join me in voting this down. But my concern is, setting aside, I think, everything that should be said or could be said on the problem that we're trying to address and how we might fix it, I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to set aside, what kind of city do we want to be? What's going to happen if we pass this? What's going to get reported out in the Daily Pilot or the Register or whatever thing you read is not going to be this nuanced thing that we're slightly different than Long Beach and that we kind of modified it to appease. No, all the things they're going to say is Costa Mesa is making it harder to do business here. And if you want to come here and do business, we're going to micromanage you. And, federal law says this, state law says that. You make it tough enough to do business out here, and Costa Mesa is going to say, hold my beer. I'm going to get up there and layer some more ordinances on there. And that's the impression that the public's going to have. And we're here and we hear Carol and finance come to us. We've got revenue generation issues. We need to find ways to find some more money here in the city. And advertising to the business community that we are not business friendly by passing an ordinance that literally accomplishes nothing is just the wrong message for this council to be sending to the business community. And that's my comment, and I hope there's some council up here that will rethink their vote and we stop this.
Okay, so I'm going to, sorry.
I would like a chance to speak.
Yeah, of course, go ahead. Councilmember Gamaros.
I wonder how many of those who speak against this ordinance this evening actually had to sling groceries for a living for 8 hours to feed their family, to make ends meet. I wonder how many people have to run back and forth to a liquor cabinet while they're watching 3, 4, 5, 6 registers at the same time, stooping, bending, rushing. We were actually threatened at the dais with, if an employee does not provide a safe actuation at the register, that they could be held criminally liable. And we're talking about one person handling more than 3 unmanned registers. If there's a peak hour, I said this before, the grocery stores will just open up another lane. They do it all the time. My concern here is not that we're trying to ruin business. It's that we're not thinking of those who actually are working families that work for a living, that are being held responsible for the safety and the theft of a grocery store. And that was proven at our last meeting when a gentleman went up to the mic and said that those employees could be held criminally liable. That was insulting. So I will be supporting this evening. I'm glad to do it, and I'm glad to see that as a city, we are looking to protect workers, their futures, and their families. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, from my perspective, I think that Councilmember Bewley made some reasonable points, and as to Councilmember Pettis, if the issue happens and people hate this in Costa Mesa, we have 2 fail-safes. We have the 1 year, we look at it in 1 year, and also anybody who votes for this tonight, and I'm gonna vote for it, can bring it back for reconsideration. So if people are having a hard time with this, give me a call, we'll bring it back and we'll reconsider it, even within that 1 year period. But, you know, I'll say this one last thing. I commend Councilmember Reynolds for coming up with a compromise that addressed the concerns both of the UFCW and the grocers representatives. I thought it was very well done, and I appreciate that she did it. And that's the type of compromise I'd like to see in other, jurisdictions as well. So thank you for that. Let's call for the question.
Motion carries 5-2 with Council Members Pettis and Bewley voting no.
Okay. Okay, next up. It's new business item number 1. Madam Clerk, please read the title.
Oh, thank you. Approval of a professional services agreement with Bracken's Kitchen for kitchen operations at the Bridge Shelter. Presentation by Mr. Robbins, Neighborhood Improvement Manager.
Mr. Robbins, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The item before you tonight is an agreement with Bracken's Kitchen for kitchen operations at the Bridge Shelter. So first, some background. The shelter opened in 2021, but the first year of operation had food cooked off-site and delivered to the shelter. A year after the initial opening of the Bridge Shelter, the city signed a contract with Bracken's Kitchen to provide a full commercial kitchen operation at the Bridge Shelter. We purposely built a extremely nice commercial kitchen at the shelter so that food would be cooked on-site. We could have various services for the guests, culinary training programs, and just really give some dignity to the people that are living there with some really, really tasty food. Since April of 2022, Bracken's Kitchen has prepared approximately 36,000 meals a year. Of course, that varies with the number of people we have at the shelter, but roughly 36,000 meals a year is what they're cooking. They've far exceeded expectations regarding food quality, kitchen management, and customer service. They're just a really, really amazing partner. Bill Bracken is a great man and friend, I might say. But yeah, his staff does a really, really great job over there. The guests have nothing but positive things to say about the chefs. And we're just really pleased with the work that they've done over the past 4 years. Bracken's Kitchen volunteered to assist Life on the Streets. It's a program that's run every Saturday out of the Crossing Church. They have about 150 to 200 folks show up every Saturday to receive workforce development, life mentoring, things like that. And Bracken's Kitchen provides all the food for that coming out of the shelter, and they pay for it themselves. So just a really great community partner for things that we do here in the city. And then lastly, which is of course a really important point, is they maintain their costs that they told us from the beginning. So it was $12.50 per person per day 4 years ago, and since then they've only raised their price by $1. So their current price is $13.50 per person per day, which according to Bill is roughly half of what their cost is to provide the service. The other half is made up through private donations and fundraising. So we get a smoking deal for this amazing level of service at the shelter. So just big, massive kudos to Bracken's Kitchen for that. The city's agreement with Bracken's expires this April. Because of that, we went out for RFP back in October of 2025, and as a result, we received 2 proposals. One, of course, from Bracken's, and the other one from an organization called Every Table. Just some quick facts about the 2 proposals that we received. Bracken's proposed to have staff on site, as well as volunteers on site, whereas the Every Table proposal had no on-site staff or volunteers. Bracken's would cook the meals on site and serve the meals fresh. Every Table would cook off site and deliver the meals, which goes against everything that we built the kitchen for. Bracken's was less expensive as well at that $13.50 per person per day. So the not to exceed amount of the contract is that $492,750 a year, whereas the Every Table was $520,000 and change. But just a quick note, both of those proposals are based on actual meals served. So if the census at the shelter goes down and they produce less meals, they charge us less. It's not like we're paying them a set amount regardless of how many meals they serve. So that's a good thing for the city. The Every Table proposal had no additional services. Bracken's has, like I mentioned before, a culinary training program. They do movie nights, ice cream socials, and then they mix up the menu with pasta parties, burgers and brats, surf and turf. Just some really good menu options for the guests. And so the review team reviewed both proposals, unanimously selected Bracken's. So based on that, staff recommends that the City Council approve the professional services agreement with Bracken's Kitchen for kitchen operations at the Bridge Shelter. That concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Anybody have any questions? I saw her first. Councilmember Reynolds, and then we'll go to Councilmember Bewley.
Yeah, 2 questions, and I appreciate you answering a number of mine already. I wanted to confirm a couple things. So the contract in front of us is a set price for 5 years. When I read the proposal, it looked like the proposal was for 1 year. But are you confirming that the Bracken's Kitchen has confirmed that set price for 5 years?
Yeah, so the RFP was very clear that this would be a 5-year contract, three years set with 2 optional 1-year extensions. And the proposal that Bracken's gave was for $13.50 per person per day with no increases for cost of living or CPI or anything. So the short answer is yes.
Have we confirmed with them? And I'm reading from their cost proposal, quote, "This proposal will be honored for the entirety of the 1-year contract."
So we actually, I think Bill Bracken's on the phone. He could answer that question himself.
I would appreciate that confirmation. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And then you probably don't have these numbers in front of you, but maybe you can estimate or give us some numbers to put in context. 100% of this cost is not shouldered by the city of Costa Mesa, right? These, as I understand it, the cost for the meal service is baked into the like per bed costs when we do have partners, Newport Beach, maybe a different city in the future, and as well the cost for the behavioral health beds. Is that right? And can you estimate, if so, can you estimate like what percentage of this contract would Costa Mesa be expected to pay for based on others, through that contract mechanism, given the share of beds?
Yes, ma'am. So like I said in the email, the contract or the agreement that we have with Newport currently doesn't carve out specifically how much they pay for meals. Their cost per bed per year includes meal service though.
Right.
So again, they pay us.
Proportionally it works out though, right?
Correct.
But they're shouldering okay.
Correct.
Okay. They're $50 a bed a night or whatever it is includes the 13.5, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And then also, like I said, the Behavioral Health Bridge Housing Grant that the city got pays for 100% of the meal service for the 15 behavioral health clients that are at the shelter. Last year, the city requested reimbursement for just under $80,000 for the 15 behavioral health clients, which directly offsets the city's cost to provide the meals for the 15 behavioral health clients.
Okay, and so for the capacity of 100 beds, 15 are reserved for the behavioral health, which is paid for from an external revenue source. About how many are on average allocated for a non-Costa Mesa partner, which in the past has been Newport?
Sure. So currently Newport has 20 beds.
Yeah, okay.
So 20 and 15, so 35. So what, 65 or so
So
Costa Mesa?
2/3 of the contract we're covering, a third is expected to be covered by other partners, essentially.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Bewley?
Yep, and just a quick question, maybe two, the proverbial two. And because you did answer most of it, I just kind of wanted to highlight, well, when we say costs, cost based on actual meals, that means you can scale up and scale down based on the level of occupancy we have there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, so we've got that flexibility. You guys keep doing a great job, and we have empty beds. We don't have a max, a minimum max, if you will, that we have to pay.
Correct, that's right.
All right, that's it.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I forgot one other question.
Of course.
Were you able to find out our typical cost for meals for the senior center?
I was not.
Okay. Brian, I'll be following up with you on that. Thank you.
I have just one quick question. So, and if we have Newport Beach that's our partner, and I think it's the worst kept secret that we're having a discussion with Irvine to do that too. Is that what they pay per bed? Does that subsidize the cost of the food as well?
Yes, sir. For their clients, it includes the case management services we provide, everything that the shelter provides, and all the costs that the shelter has are proportionately reimbursed by the city based on the number of beds. So that cost per bed analysis that the finance department did includes all of the city's costs. So what these partner cities pay covers for their own clients.
So I want you to listen carefully. So what you're saying, I think you're saying is the cost of the food is baked in, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay, good. I had to get another pun out there. All right, so anyhow, if there's no other questions, let's open it up to public comment. Nobody here, anybody on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor, but I see that Mr. Bracken is on. I don't know if
Mr.
he-
Bracken, did you want to answer the question? There was a question about, what was it about? Was it the CPI?
No, 5-year set cost, 5-year contract.
Do you remember the question, Mr. Bracken?
I do, sir. Thank you, Mayor. How's everybody this evening?
Everybody's doing great.
Good. Honored to be here. I'm nothing but honest, so I got to be honest here now. I kind of gulped when I heard the 3-year commitment because I may have missed that, but we're more than willing to make that 3-year commitment with the 2 optional years as I understood it, because we love our partnership with Costa Mesa, and I think we just have an amazing opportunity to set an example of how the rest of this country should service this less fortunate in the homeless population. So thank you for giving us that opportunity.
All right, thanks. With that, I'll close public comment. I'm going to move to accept the staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay, so just a few things. Number one, thank you for laying out the two bids. I think in the competitive bidding environment, that's a really good thing to do for transparency and to also encourage people to bid. They know that they'll get that level of respect. As for Bracken's Kitchen, I cannot say enough about what they do for not just the city of Costa Mesa, but what they do generally as a nonprofit. I've got to know Bracken's Kitchen. I've got to know Bill Bracken. And, if anybody has an opportunity to go to his fundraiser, you should. It's a great thing. It's fun. And and we should promote that within the city, but because that does help us. So please, if you consider providing funding to that, I mean, that if you have it in your heart to do that and you have it in your financial means, that's something to consider. It's a great nonprofit, and the food that they provide there is restaurant quality food, and it's helping people get into a warm, safe, dry environment, not just in the shelter, but permanent housing. And so thank you for what you're doing. And I wholeheartedly support the staff's recommendation and the work that Bracken's Kitchen's doing. I'm very grateful for the work that they're doing, and very grateful for the work you're doing too, Mr. Robbins. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your good comments. And I always say ditto, but I do want to stress the fact, 2 quick points. I do like how this looks on the report. And I think for staff, moving forward, if we can do something similar to showcase the bids, it'd be helpful for everyone to see why we chose who we chose. And again, to the mayor's point about Bracken's Kitchen, incredible organization. I love the fact that the residents in our shelter get to eat healthy, quality food made at that site. And the fact that it's cheaper than their competitors, the fact that it's on the location, and just the mission behind everything, this is a really good organization, and I'm happy we're renewing them again.
Anyone else? Councilmember Reynolds?
Yeah, thank you. Nothing to add that was said already. The reason I asked about the senior center meals is, as I was reading the proposal, I thought, like, what an amazing, we've got like professional chefs coming here making these great hot meals, and like, are we doing equivalent for the senior center? So I really want to. We've had some discussions last year, maybe not recently, although the issue persists of hunger in our senior community and what services we're providing through our senior center. I've heard some mixed reviews on the meals available at the senior center. So I'm interested in just kind of comparing that, and whether, I don't know when those contracts are up or how we assess those, but I want to sort of consider whether there's a similar contract for our senior center, so they're benefiting from a lot of the same opportunities, including the opportunity for culinary training. I think that's a great aspect. So I'm interested in maybe leveraging some of the ideas or successes here for other parts of our community services. Other quick note that I think you're going to take care of, but just want to make sure it's noted, is in several places the contract mentions Newport Beach. So if that's not going to be part of the 5-year future, let's just clean that up. Thank you.
All right, I think we're ready to call for the question.
Councilmember Gameros. Okay, thank you. Motion carries 6-0.
All right, thank you, council. Next is new business item number 2. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Thank you. City of Costa Mesa's Urban Canopy and Land Assessment. Presentation by Mr. Ryan, Maintenance Services Manager.
Mr. Ryan, you just take your time, settle down. You can settle in there, relax, and then when you're ready, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I appreciate the opportunity this evening to present the city's urban tree canopy and land assessment. Just a little background before we get into the nuts and bolts of the assessment. The city's urban forest currently contains approximately 22,700 trees with an estimated value of over $100 million. It contains 325 different unique tree species. Currently, 94% of those existing trees rated fair or good, which are the highest 2 ratings we can receive. 87% of those are rated in good condition. I think it's important to keep in mind that when we talk about tree health, we're talking in terms of over many, many years, different cycles and impact overall health and vitality of a tree. If you look at the last 10 years, it's been a lot of drought surrounded by short bursts of rain and moisture, which can cause issues with tree growth and tree sustainability. And then we've had the fact that we've had introduction of new non-native, extremely invasive pests, the most notable of which would be the polyphagous shot-hole borer, which has been found to affect over 200 species of plants and trees. I think it's remarkable that the trees that we have are in good condition. I think it speaks to what we're doing here. The city's urban forest and canopy contributes to a lot of environmental and mental health. They absorb and release oxygen, with one tree potentially producing enough oxygen for 4 people daily. They reduce the urban heat island effect through shade and evaporative cooling, and they lower temperatures throughout the city. Leaves trap particulates, dust and smoke. They absorb pollutants like nitrogen oxides, ammonia and sulfur. Exposure to trees reduces stress, it lowers blood pressure and improves mental health. And of course, they offer food and shelter for birds, mammals, insects, and they actually can reduce noise pollution by acting as buffers. Given the importance of the city's urban forest and the impact it has on the environment and health and welfare of the residents of Costa Mesa, it's important that the city does all it can to preserve and ultimately expand the existing tree canopy. So in order to accomplish that, it's important first to examine where the city is currently in regards to tree canopy. So with that in mind, the city contracted with West Coast Arborists to conduct an urban tree canopy and land assessment. The main goal of this assessment was to establish a baseline of where the city is right now with regards to its tree canopy coverage. The data can guide future strategies. It won't necessarily provide specific recommendations on how to expand it, but can be initially used to drive budgetary decisions and short-term planting strategies. I think it can be used by multiple departments and bodies, obviously Public Works with future CIP projects, but also Development Services, Planning Commission, City Council, and others. This simply provides a starting point and a means to measure progress moving forward. No matter what big audacious plans we come up with tomorrow, we don't know where we've started. We need to know where we have started in order to have a meaningful way to measure progress. This is the first step. The city could check progress every 4 to 6 years and allow planting trees, depending on size planted, to add enough canopy to register in updated satellite imagery. To the assessment, the study evaluated urban tree canopy and possible planting areas across multiple geographic scales. It did include private and city-owned trees, both. Some of those geographic scales included a citywide boundary. The 6 council districts was broken down. The information was broken down into 37 census tracts, as well as 20 land use groups and 34 designated park areas. So the presentation will focus on the first 3, citywide and council districts and census tracts. So those are most likely to provide the pertinent information for some short-term opportunities. So the data sources from this assessment used high-resolution multispectral imagery from U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Agriculture Imagery Program. This information was collected over the summer of 2024 to generate land-covered data set. It's a top-down approach. Again, it includes city-owned and privately owned trees. To improve the accuracy and ensure consistency with local land use classifications, additional GIS layers were provided by the city. Those were integrated in the analysis. These layers would include low, medium, and high-density residential, commercial, right-of-ways, schools, and et cetera. Following that initial process, there was some manual refinement and quality controls that were conducted. This included identifying shadows and other anomalies in the imagery that would interfere with an accurate accounting. And lastly, additional GIS layers were provided by the city, including buildings, bodies of waters, wetlands. Those were all incorporated into the mapping to ensure greater accuracy. When it comes to land cover, it's classified as pervious and impervious based on water absorption and vegetation support. Pervious land allows water infiltration and includes canopy, vegetation, soil that contribute to stormwater management and ecological health. Impervious land is obviously the opposite of that, prevents water absorption, and includes buildings, roads, sidewalks, and surfaces that lead to increased runoff and heat retention. In the context of urban forestry and strategic canopy expansion, Suitable planting areas refer to land classifications where tree establishment is both feasible and beneficial. These are typically vegetated spaces, exposed soils not obstructed by existing infrastructure. These areas present optimal conditions for tree growth and canopy expansion. Unsuitable planting areas are locations where tree planting is impractical or conflicts with existing land use functions. These include impervious surfaces, as mentioned, roads, buildings, and other developed infrastructure. They also include ecologically or functionally restricted areas, such as body waters, transportation corridors, utility easements. Additionally, certain open spaces that might otherwise be considered plantable, such as sports fields, school track and field areas, designated recreational areas, were included and designated as unsuitable for planting. Obviously, that was done in an effort to preserve their intended uses. Of Costa Mesa's approximately 441.9 million square feet of total land area, 1.8% has been specifically designated as unsuitable sports areas, while additional 12.3% falls under other types of unsuitable planting areas, including large community spaces such as Fairview Park, the Costa Mesa Golf Course, as well as open space and maintained parklands. So by distinguishing between suitable and unsuitable planting areas, this assessment ensures that urban forest expansion efforts are strategically placed in locations where they are able to provide the greatest ecological, social, and economic value while respecting the existing land use priorities. That doesn't mean that certain areas, such as streets and transportation corridors, couldn't be modified to better accommodate trees in the future. This is just a snapshot of existing conditions as they are now. So if we look at the existing canopy coverage study, our canopy coverage in the city of Costa Mesa as of 2024 is at 13.88%. Areas unsuitable for planting is at 80.48%, and areas suitable for future planting is at 5.63%. So how do we stack up against some of our neighboring cities? While direct comparisons are limited due to limited data collection over different years, some of the recent data pulled from CAL FIRE and the Forest Service's tree canopy projects do provide some context as to where our city of Costa Mesa lies compared to our neighbors. And you can see from the cities listed below that we're a little bit higher than just about all the cities that have measured their tree canopy in recent times. We are a little bit below the Southern California regional average of 15%. And just as a note, the recommended minimum urban canopy coverage in arid and semi-arid climates is 20% in order to promote environmental resilience, mitigate urban heat, and enhance livability. So if we look at the canopy assessment by council district, District 1 has the highest tree canopy coverage, while District 5 has the lowest. Other districts are within a 4% range of District 1. District 1 has a lower percentage of potential planting areas, but is the largest district in terms of land mass. And District 4 is the smallest district by area and thus presents less opportunity for canopy expansion. The table on the left shows the percentages based on council district, and the one on the right has based on square footage. District 6 does show the highest percentage of suitable planting areas. The next slide regards census tracts. So these census tracts are commonly used by state and federal agencies to define areas of need. They grant monies and could assist with canopy development in those areas. Excuse me. Census tract 63604 and 05. The available planting space is limited due to existing land use patterns. It includes primarily low and high density residential areas with smaller parkway widths. Because of this, traditional large-scale planting projects may not be the most effective approach. In these areas, the focus should shift toward canopy preservation and strategic replacement rather than expansion. Those opportunities would include prioritizing maintenance and tree health to preserve existing canopy and reduce avoidable removals. And then when trees must be replaced, selecting the largest appropriate species for the available planter size. Also avoiding undersized ornamental species in locations where canopy-forming tree can successfully mature, and avoid planting species that require more space than is available, as these are likely to be removed prematurely and would not provide the long-term benefits we are seeking. Another option is to consider suspended pavement, root support systems, like silva cells or stratovaults. During infrastructure or redevelopment projects, would reduce soil compaction. These are systems that allow for pavement to be placed on top of the system and loose infill dirt to be placed below to allow the tree roots to grow. So the potential for planting a larger tree in a smaller combined space could be possible in those instances. So the consultant that utilized iTree Echo, which is a program that calculates benefits, and these benefits are based on City of Costa Mesa's specific tree inventory of 22,700 trees. They did include local hourly air pollution and meteorological data to quantify urban forest structure, environmental effects, and values to communities. The dollar amounts you see represent the estimated economic value of ecosystem services such as carbon storage, air pollution removal, avoided runoff, and energy savings. These are calculated by multiplying each service by a standardized benefit value. That benefit value is produced using the U.S. Forest Service developed models and algorithms based on peer-reviewed research that link tree structure and environmental data to ecosystem benefits. And so you can see the benefits. These are based solely on the city-owned trees or city inventory trees. So they contribute quite a bit of benefits in terms of pollution removal, carbon storage, carbon sequestration, avoided runoff, and then of course, I'm a big fan of oxygen production, so. The next is just a pie chart that shows our top 10 species of trees. The top is a liquid amber, followed by a tie for second between pear trees and Canary Island pine trees. 48% of our trees are those other 340 species mixed in. This next chart just shows a graph of the tree sizes as we measure them at the DBH. That's measured at chest height, or 4.5 feet off the ground. Those smaller numbers, like that 3 to 6 range, looks like about 20% of trees are in that range. And there's another 30-some% that are in the 6 to 12 range. That indicates to me that at least within the 3 to 6 and maybe that 6 to 8 range that we have some young trees, that there's still a lot of ability for growth in there, which is a positive. That means that the canopy, the existing canopy has the potential to expand just within those two segments of young trees, young and small trees. The next graph is that's just a table that shows the 10 species with the greatest, listed as the greatest importance by measuring the percent of leaf area and the percent of the population. That doesn't necessarily indicate that these are trees that we want to encourage in the future. Again, this is just a snapshot of where we sit today. So some of the conclusions on the assessment, where is canopy lacking? Districts 2, 5, and 6 with canopy coverage between 12.7% and 13.5%. In census tracts, that'd be 63701 and 62601. It shows lowest canopy percentage citywide between 9.8% and 11.7%. And then high residential and commercial corridors along Harbor Boulevard, Bristol Street, and South Coast Plaza are short on planting areas. These containers are impervious surfaces, minimal public green space, and limited planting within private parcels. Where does the most opportunity lie? The most suitable areas for new tree planting are found in District 3 and District 6. It also listed a couple of our parks, Seawinkle Park and Wacom Park. When it comes to park open green space for play, it would have to be weighed against tree planting. The assessment was able to clearly delineate obvious sports use areas, baseball diamonds, football fields, marked soccer fields. It was a little bit more difficult to distinguish the use of open green space. So that may have led to exclusion of some potentially plantable areas. Areas most needed protection versus expansion. East side Costa Mesa and parts of District 1, they contain large residential lots with existing mature tree canopy. We'd look at making sure that those trees are protected through our streetscape and median development standards, where we set some standards that are reasonable standards, yet tough standards to justify removal of trees in those particular areas. And then expansions, commercial zones with only 8.6% and school properties averaging less than 8% require some expansion efforts. Notably, FDC was listed as a medical facility, and that contains large pervious surfaces with poor tree canopy, and there's obviously a lot of discussion around FDC and the development there, but there's obviously a lot of opportunity for different things, a lot of pushes and pulls in that area, but there's opportunity here for improved tree canopy coverage as well. Some general citywide trends. I don't think there's anything too surprising here. It obviously favors low density residential areas with 23.8% canopy. Underserves high density residential and commercial zones. These are areas where there might not be an incentive for these property owners to plant trees and maintain trees. There's large parcels such as Talbot Regional Park, Fairview Park, and Costa Mesa Golf Course. They have extensive canopy and open space, but really those offer limited benefit to street level urban canopy goals, which is primarily where we should be focused. Of course, Census Tracts 63803 and 63902 show a combination of low existing canopy and high planting suitability. So this assessment was presented to our Parks and Community Services Commission in their meeting in November. There's a list of comments. They had the full list of comments is included in your agenda report. It included a mapping of tree inventory that we can put online so that tree deficient areas can be analyzed, and they collaborate with Newport Mesa Unified School District to increase tree canopy at various school properties, especially in areas that are lacking adequate canopy cover. With that, staff began working almost immediately with the consultant to develop the City of Costa Mesa's tree benefits website. We're still working on that. It's nearly ready for release. It's in its draft form. I'm going to see if I can link us there, but it has some great information on it. This worked earlier, so is that coming up? So at the top, there's some great links, some beneficial websites, some information about the assessment. There's a prune district map which shows residents the general area of the pruning schedule, which is great. There's a listing of the trees, the tree inventory, the species, tree count, replacement value, and our current canopy coverage. Some of the environmental benefits at a glance. And then there's several maps that are included with this, the tree benefits dashboard. So it shows that in both pounds and dollar values of carbon storage, pollution removal. You can zoom in on this map. It's interactive, and you can locate your neighborhood. As you dial in, the numbers of trees go down, and total economic benefits correlate to what you're seeing in that particular area. There's a tree canopy coverage that shows by our census tracts. And you can kind of pick on the census tract you want to look at, and it'll give you information there. And then finally, there's a kind of heat map, which I think is what the commission kind of honed in on, that they wanted to take a look at and be able to zoom in and look at different areas. The yellowish areas have the highest benefit with regards of removal of pollution. So that's the total benefits. You can click and unclick different different items, and it gives you different benefits. You can kind of zoom into your particular neighborhood. Obviously, the map is going to remain relatively the same because you have the concentration of trees that are providing those benefits in the same areas. So you're probably not going to see a whole lot change between the different layers. That's a few of the pages that you can find on that now. So next steps. As I mentioned, the assessment is just to provide a snapshot of where we are. However, we can glean a few things. We have a good amount of existing tree canopy, especially when you compare us to our neighbors. So protecting an existing tree canopy is very important. Setting high yet reasonable standards for removals, enforce tree protection standards for construction projects, both private projects and our own internal projects, provide appropriate maintenance levels and pest monitoring of existing trees, and then tree planting. Prioritize areas that are deficient, prioritizing locations that can support larger, longer-lived trees, and a focus on proper maintenance of newly planted trees, and the encourage of planting of trees on private property citywide. So basically, this document was what do we have now? Where is it located throughout the city? And where are the opportunities? That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Anybody? Councilmember Reynolds?
I'm the only one? Okay. I was going to try to let others go first. Thank you for that presentation. I love the website. That was not in our staff report, I think, right? That's new. Is that public? Like, can folks in the public go to that website right now and start looking at the data?
It's not quite public. It's still in its draft form, but we want to give you a preview. We're wrapping up a few minor pieces, and we should be releasing it shortly.
What a teaser. Okay. What does shortly mean? This week? Next week? Next month?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Reynolds, it might take, I think, 2 to 3 weeks because we want to internally review it and also make sure that our public affairs team also has a chance to look at it before we make sure that it is good to release to the public.
Okay. 3 weeks or so. And then, so we just got some quick glances at it. In the images I saw, it looked to me like the data is only for the city-owned trees. Is that right in some of the graphics shown there?
I believe that data is just city-owned trees.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So that's one of the sort of challenging things in understanding the data coming to us through the assessment, right, versus what you just showed is understanding what we own as the city of Costa Mesa, that $100 million asset, which is pretty neat. Versus, right, a huge contribution to the tree canopy of privately owned trees. Okay, so I'm just sort of saying that because I caught myself a few times trying to understand what numbers are represented. Okay, well, I'm excited to see that website, and I think based on some public response I got and just saying that, hey, this is happening, I think a lot of people in the public are going to be excited to see that. Do you have any estimate? So we know we have about 23,000 trees in the city's inventory. I understand most of that, if not all of it, is owned and maintained through our contract with West Coast Arborist. But the 13.88% tree canopy is both city tree and privately owned tree. Do you have any, can you give us a sense of what is the number of privately owned trees compared to the 23,000? Is our 23,000 10%, 20%, 30% of that tree canopy? Do we have any estimate of that?
So, Councilman Reynolds, we actually reached out to the consultant, and we're in the process of trying to provide additional GIS layers to separate that information. I hate to hazard a guess and just be way off, but we're working with the consultant to actually break that down. It's very difficult to actually look at and differentiate between private property, especially when you're looking at a satellite image to figure out where that stops and starts. So, but they are working on that.
Okay, okay. And ballpark, right? It's not,
Yes.
But I get it. Okay. Yeah, and that's just really helpful where my head is like, okay, like what can we do as a city versus what are we gonna try to ask members of the public, right, the rest of the community to do to grow that canopy? Is that, 5% of suitable land if we want to grow our canopy? Is that even in our control at all, right? And if we double our efforts, like what impact does that make on that 5%? So I think we don't have the information to really make those estimates yet, but we're getting that. Can you give me a sense, so in the spirit of what I think is a desire you've heard from this council to grow that tree canopy, especially in areas where there's clearly a deficit, what is the typical cycle? So when we plant a new tree, right, there's not a lot of canopy there. At what point do we start to see that canopy and like all the different benefits that come? Is that in 2 years? Is that in 10 years? I know it depends on the type of tree, but just give us a sense.
Yes, it definitely depends on the type of tree and the location it's planted, but I would say in the 5 to 8 year mark, you'll start seeing some canopy show up.
Got it.
Some trees a little bit sooner than that.
Okay. So if we just like went all out this year and planted a whole bunch, it's still, I mean, there's some benefits you get right away, but the full benefits really are 5 years to 8 years out.
Correct. The true benefit's going to be what you plant and then obviously maintaining what you have.
Yeah.
And expanding that.
Okay.
As Rob mentioned, Mr. Ryan mentioned, we have many trees, 30% of the trees are still in that young stage, which in about few years will definitely have some canopy, additional canopy, even with the existing tree count. So we might see some benefit in 5 years based on our current trees too.
You're saying the job's already done?
No, not yet.
Okay, 30%, I missed that. 30% of our tree inventory is still in the growing up stage?
Roughly, there was about 20%. They're in that 3 to 6 size of DBH, and I would estimate at least another 15%. They were probably in that 6 to 8 range. We combine it in our inventory as a 6 to 12. Some of the 12s towards that 8 to 12, some of those may be more established depending on the species of tree.
Okay, and then since that 13.88 canopy percent was based on like aerial analysis and not bottom-up tree count, we could do nothing and we're expecting that canopy to grow. I should say maintaining our existing trees, right? But the canopy is going to grow based on trees that have already been planted and that are growing up.
That's something I would expect to see.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know, thank you. I think you answered this, but I just want to confirm. I was wondering what the heck is a prune district? So that's how we section out for the pruning schedule. Is that what that is?
Correct. That's our schedule for just regular grid trimming of all of our city trees are separated in a number of districts.
Yeah.
And then we schedule those districts accordingly.
Got it. Okay. So one district each year, essentially.
Probably more than one district per year, depending on the size of the district.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. In terms of maintaining our current trees, are our maintenance practices best practices? Are we doing enough to maintain our current trees? I thought I remember hearing a while back that we had maybe 10 years ago or so cut back on our like tree trimming cycle. We know we get a lot of in our reading folder, a tree branch fell on my car, and so on. So are we kind of at the best standards, or is there room for improvement in terms of standards on maintenance?
I mean, there's always room for improvement. Our budgets, we're established with certain parameters in mind with respect to the wage rates and all. And I think there was a recent state law, I think that got passed a few years ago that increased the wage rates of the workers, and that reduced, our budgets didn't keep up with those wage rates. So, which means the number of trees that get pruned gets reduced too. And as Mr. Ryan mentioned, the weather cycles have impacted too. So we have, when we go and deal with severe weather events, that takes away from the budget too. When we address the fallen trees due to storm events and things like that, that also comes from the same budget. So those are those kind of factors that we need to think about.
Okay. So you said we slowed down the pruning schedule. Ideally, we'd pick that up again. But obviously, there's budget considerations with that.
Exactly.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, ideally we should be in the 3 to 5 year cycle. We are more in the 5 to 7, sometimes a little longer.
Okay. And again, the ideal cycle probably depends on the type of tree.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
But the 3 to 5 year cycle will give a chance, as part of the pruning, they also look at the health of the tree and take any steps in making sure that the tree, lives on.
Yeah.
So kind of miss that chance if you go longer between pruning.
Got it. Okay. Which species requires the most frequent pruning, which I'm assuming is the most expensive maintenance?
So palms do come in that category because they have, the palm, fruits and stuff that have to be taken off, otherwise they create a mess. So we do address them more frequently than other trees. Anything else, Rob?
No, palms would be the most frequent. Beyond that, maybe ficus and elm trees and pines would probably be the top 3.
Okay. So palm's most expensive to maintain is what I'm hearing. Okay. We have this great tree planting program. I think we've had it for a long time. In the last couple of years, we've tried to promote it a little bit more. Give me a sense of what's the uptake on that?
So we have on average about 35 residents that request tree plantings per year.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Those are my questions.
Any other questions? So I think to pick up on something that you guys were discussing in concept, I would be really interested, not today, okay, but maybe even in the context of our budget discussion, to have a real understanding of how much it costs us. I mean, it's worth it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love trees, but there are, it seems to me like the trees, we have our people on staff, arborists and so forth, and Mr. Ryan's team, and then you've got West Coast arborists with whom we have a contract, and then the trees create roots, and then you have to abate the roots, and you have to fix the sidewalks or the streets, and so that's a cost. And then, as Councilmember Reynolds mentioned, sometimes branches fall down on people's cars, and then we have claims, or sometimes people walk down the sidewalk and trip and fall, and then we have claims. We see that every meeting. Just all of the costs associated with this. And the reason I bring it up is not to say that we should cut those costs, but the old saying is, if you want to know somebody's values, don't ask them, look at the budget, right? So to the extent that we're putting money into the budget, and also in comparison to some of our like-sized other cities, it indicates our financial commitment to the trees and whether or not it's, too much, too little, whatever we should do. That's a policy decision we should make during the budgetary cycle. This is great information. I also picked up on the thing that Councilmember Reynolds mentioned, which is this is only part of it. Because, I heard one time from somebody who was more brave, maybe it was Director Setharaman at a weak moment, that there's something like 75,000 private trees. I put that on social media, so it must be true. And I just remember when I used to work on the 7th floor of the Met, and I would look over the 405 freeway into Councilmember Gameros' district, and you could see nothing but trees. It was truly a tree canopy. It was beautiful. And so I know that there are districts that have a lot of private trees, and including my house, we have two, you've been to my house, we have two of the biggest pine trees in the entire neighborhood. You can see our pine trees from everywhere in the neighborhood. And those cost money too. We spend a lot of money maintaining those and trimming those and stuff like that out of our pocket. It would be interesting too to know how much, probably impossible to know, but how much do our residents spend on their own trees, maintaining them, planting them, and so forth. But it's a worthwhile commitment, because I agree with you, Mr. Ryan. I'm a big fan of oxygen. I think it's important. And shade. One of the members of the public said that our justification, by the way, thank you, Mr. Toller, I read your piece. Our justifications for the trees were too kind of like esoteric and scientific. You know, it's like carbon footprint, whatever. It's like shade. We swing from them. We climb on them. They're nice to look at. They slow down traffic. They're pretty. You know, kids remember them when they grew up. They remember that tree that was in their front yard. You know, there's so many things that you get from trees that are, we talk in this kind of like, what is it, like a climate action, whatever, speak, you know, climate speak in this day and age, you know. So we get, you know, back years ago before we started talking about climate change, we talked more about shade and swings and things like that. It was more direct language. And that still applies today. You ask a kid, why do you like a tree? They're not going to say because it reduces the carbon footprint, or they're not even going to mention oxygen. They're just like, I like that tree. I like when the leaves fall and I can play in the leaves, you know, stuff like that. But I thought it was a beautiful thing to do. Thank you for this. I'm interested in the budgetary aspect. And we can bring that up at some point in time when we look at it. And what if we need to make adjustments, devote more money to it? It's certainly something to think about. Of course, this may not be the year to do that. I don't have any other questions. I'm not even sure I asked a question. But in as much as I'm the presider of this meeting, I can take a few liberties. Okay, so anybody, we open it up to public comment? Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. First of all, I think this report is good. It shows that we're going to need more trees. I think the question that I want answered is, where do we need more trees? So to the extent that these maps can identify where exactly those trees need to be planted, what are these suitable areas that we're talking about? Let's show that on these maps, in these public maps, by the way. Maps from this and from Director Ty's department are going to keep me busy for a while. There's a new one. So hopefully we can see that and we can identify that. The other point that I wanted to make, there was just an LA Times article that came out yesterday that's called Nearly Half of LA County's Pavement May Be Unnecessary New Map Finds. So to the extent that in this report, we find that areas with a lot of pavement are unsuitable for planting, I would dispute that. In Los Angeles County, there are large areas of, well, mainly parking areas, where redesigning them into angled parking could get rid of the necessity for for LA County, this is thousands of acres of pavement that could be areas for stormwater capture. And I think stormwater capture is especially important for us because in a month, you're going to be getting this stormwater development fee study, which is saying that we need $100 million of stormwater improvements, and we need to get that money somehow. So taking a look at all these areas with excess pavement, how can we put more trees in these areas, and where else can we put trees? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Andrew Barnes, please.
Andrew. Barnes, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you very much. In 1991, my family moved here onto Monrovia Avenue on the Freedom Home tracks because the canopy was unbelievable. We have these beautiful trees that created this shade. It was like going to your wedding. The trees canopy just cradled the street, and it was phenomenal. Unfortunately, we have Edison high voltage line on one side, and they've now maintained those trees by hacking them down to maintain a electrical buffer zone. And we get it, but the trees here are phenomenal. And it is one of the reasons we've tried to move away from Costa Mesa for so many times, so many years, never found a place that had the same ethos. Recently, I called the city and I said we had some dead branches. I was worried about them falling on the street. They came out and assessed our tree and decided to take out the entire tree. I'm not going to dispute that decision. That's fine. But my neighbor also, whose tree looked just as healthy in the city right away, that was also taken down. And the real issue here is that the city didn't, or their consultant didn't offer us any kind of motivation or options for replanting. So here we have the perfect opportunity. You have engagement with the citizens, a tree's being taken out, and yet there isn't any desire or the impetus on the city's part to say, hey, we can replant that with X, Y, or Z. That would be a great opportunity. If you remove a tree, why not engage with the citizens and say, let's plant another one here? Second thing is, on Monrovia, before we got here, the city rightfully put in blockades, and they planted trees in those cul-de-sacs, those blockades, but they stopped watering them. And so we've gone through several cycles of dead trees in the city, replanting trees. I think that's very important for the maintenance program to be fully engaged, to have a good track record of where all of the trees are in the city. And so I think a GIS department in our city is way past due. It can be used for so many things. Finally, to Mr. Martinez's point on the need for concrete, here in the west side, we have to pay an in lieu fee for any kind of modifications to our homes to accommodate a future potential sidewalk. That's where these trees are planted. Why do we have to pay an in lieu fee for sidewalks that shouldn't be built? Instead, we can plant trees. So there's a lot of things that the arbor.
Okay.
Cynthia, please.
Cynthia, you have the floor.
Give fools their gold and knaves their power. Let fortune's bubbles rise and fall. Who sows a field or trains a flower or plants a tree is more than all. That's from the Song of Harvest from John Greenleaf Whittier. I don't know if I can say much more than that. It's not only the value that you bring to yourself by having a tree and tending to a tree, but you're going to get some financial value out of this. If you have a live oak tree in your yard, and this was a few years back, study done up in the San Gabriel Valley, it's worth $40,000 to $50,000 to the value of your house. It adds on. If you have a mature avocado tree, it was around $30,000. So it's well worth it to plant a tree, whether it be on city property, but we do need to encourage more on private property. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
No further speakers, Mr. Mayor.
All right, closed public comment. Councilmember Reynolds has a motion.
Yeah, thank you. I'll make the motion and speak to it if there's a second. So thank you for the report. I move that we direct staff to bring back to council by April 21st a proposal or range of proposals to grow our tree canopy. And this should include the current costs, as the mayor said, our existing costs for a tree program, specifying what it would take to grow our canopy 5%, and get to 20% or 30% in residential neighborhoods. It should include the budget requirements for those potential targets. It should include common or grant opportunities or partnering opportunities to supplement those resources. Strategies to encourage planting on private lots. Strategies to grow canopy in areas marked unsuitable when those areas are residential areas or pedestrian priority areas, and potential policies to support growth and management of our urban forest.
The only thing that makes me not second that is the April 21st piece. I mean, we've been working, I think they said a lot of this data was collected in 2024. And so I don't know the staff's capability of doing it by that deadline and what the meaning of that deadline is, because we got a budget coming up and stuff like that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Reynolds, the items that you laid out generally require us to go back to the consultant and develop a urban tree canopy master plan. It's a several month effort. It's not something that, we can get a proposal from the consultant by that time, but we won't have a report ready by that time. But we will have an idea of what it takes from the consultant to get something like that.
I'm gonna speak to because I think what I'm intending to recommend or move here is not bring back a master plan. What I'm intending to do is get some data and recommendations, rooted with some. Sorry, that was unintentional. With some, sort of budget estimates to inform. Further direction in terms of where we want to go with this, right? So I could say, best practices if you go out there is cities should reach 30% tree canopy. I could say, let's do that. I have no idea what that means in terms of budgets. So I can reshape the motion, and I appreciate I always want to be sensitive to the staffing requirements to get information, but my intent is not a full master plan. It's the data needed to inform council in giving direction on next steps. I guess I'll ask the mayor, since you paused, is my sort of clarification of the goal change, or how can I reframe it?
I need to hear from staff if it's doable with all the other stuff that they're doing. Or if there's another time. Do you understand what's being requested?
I do. Some of that is very difficult to quantify without more of a master plan assessment. The strategies as far as what it would take to develop canopy is very nuanced. And it really depends. The planting part of it is going to be site specific to each location that's vacant. What tree would be most appropriate there? How can we foster that tree? So there's a lot more data that would go into something like that than I think what would appear just on the surface. We've gone back to our consultant several times to kind of ask some of the questions that you had regarding what would it take to expand that tree canopy, and they, our consultants haven't been able to provide a concrete answer, even a guesstimate, just because there's so many variables involved, and especially when it comes to private property areas and things like that.
Okay. What I don't want to do is send the team off on developing a master plan without sort of interim direction, right? And so I think what I'm looking for really is the first step in that in moving forward, right? You've given us a solid assessment of where we are, some, high level assessments of like where's easy to plant versus where is hard to plant. I have no idea what, the 5% suitable planting area, what that translates to in terms of the number of trees, right? I have no idea what, if we continue our current practices, if it takes 10 years or 100 years to grow our tree canopy 1%. That's the information I'm trying to get, and that should not require detailed analysis. So I'm looking for, maybe the city manager can make a suggestion, maybe Raja, you can make a suggestion. I want to clearly articulate the goals of sort of that next step of analysis, so council can say, hey, yeah, maybe we do want to allocate some additional budget in this budget cycle, or not, right? And if so, how much?
What if we?
I just don't think we don't have that information.
What if we did this? Wouldn't the next step be to do an RFP and then have that's probably what we did here, or maybe it was below this sounds like a little bit more of an ambitious project, to have the staff come back with a RFP that then we can go out and have either West Coast Arborist or somebody else apply and explain what the cost will be. And
Yeah, Mayor Stevens, Councilmember Reynolds, this particular effort, I think it's in the 15 to 20,000 range. It wasn't a significant effort. That's why it didn't require a formal RFP process. What we can do is pose these questions to our consultant and see what a quick short-term type of a study that can be done, or an answer that we can get for, how many trees would make up a 1% growth in canopy, for example. What does it take, and how many years? So we can formulate something like that and come back and discuss that as part of the budget process. I think it's as you indicated, the budget is going to be fairly limited for at least for the next cycle. We have increased our efforts through by being creative. We're using, for example, gas tax to fund a lot of our tree programs on arterial streets, for example, where it's public right of way and we can use gas tax. We've been using that to supplement the general fund for tree program. We could look into expanding that and see how we can do some meaningful change in the tree canopy overall. But maybe we can pose these questions to the consultant and get some answers.
Did you? I saw the city manager lean forward, so I'm just looking at her. My reaction is I don't want to immediately go back to a consultant for this, because I think some of these questions are actually fairly straightforward, and so I don't know. Maybe we bring this back for another discussion. Dare I suggest an ad hoc committee to dig into some of the data? I've seen the data that you have. I know some of these estimates can be back of the envelope. And I would rather council give direction before we embark on a new RFP or a new master plan, because there are a lot of different directions we could potentially take this. Do you have a suggestion?
Well, what I want to just clarify is I don't know that this baseline assessment of existing conditions has the information that we need to move forward in the direction that you're describing. From what I've heard staff say is that, if you want to know what it would take to expand the tree canopy by 1% or 5%, there are so many variables like location and availability and tree type in certain areas. So that's not part of this baseline assessment of existing conditions that was put together, and that would take another effort with another consultant.
Okay. I just challenge, as someone who works with data a lot, I challenge that it's a difficult question. And I don't want to spend another $25,000 or whatever it is when I think we have the data to answer some of these, again, in a ballpark way.
So what we can do is, as Director Setharaman identified, is look at the data in partnership with the consultant to see what we can extrapolate and provide that information to the council. I mean, the other consideration is the cost associated with it.
Right.
You know, I don't know if staff has that expertise available to them, but we'll certainly, you know, perhaps bring back what we can.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we know how much it costs to plant our own trees, right? We have how many years with a West Coast arborist consultant? We know how much our contract is to maintain trees. So I just think we have this information. I'm trying to think out loud through best next steps to get some short-term answers to get more council direction without spending more money and time on an RFP and consultants. So if council's not interested in that, fine, say it, but I'm just trying to work through a solid next step. Maybe what if I simplified a motion to, by April 21st, sort of bring back, so remove all the bullets I added, bring back to council, and I picked April 21st, both, you know, early enough in budget cycle, but also trying to match it up with Arbor Day. So bring back by April 21st, some additional information, including, you know, existing, the city's existing tree program, you know, activities and expenses, all stuff that we know internally, with some potential recommendations for council's consideration on expanding our tree program.
Second.
Okay.
Okay. Do we, I think that that's fine. Is that doable? What the motion is now, the limitation of the motion?
What's the second part of it? I got the first part, activities and expenses of the existing, and ideas
Oh,
too.
yeah, with some potential recommendations for council to consider for direction on enhancing our tree program.
Like next steps. So how much do we, the way I hear it is, if I get it right, is a, what does it cost, which we can do easily, and then what are some potential next steps, kind of answering some of these questions we're asking you on the fly.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, that
Maybe a
that I
next
think
step
is fine.
is, you know, develop a tree master plan. What would that cost? Right. So with budget considerations, ballpark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good with that. I mean, I think we've talked a lot about it. Do we need to talk any more about it? Should we call for the question?
Good.
Motion carries 5-1 with Councilmember Bewley voting no.
All right. Well, it's because he's got the most trees in his district. Okay, so thank you, council member, for that. It was a good discussion. Thank you for the vote. Okay, let's go to new business item number 3.
Okay, this is training requirements for elected and appointed officials and presentation by Ms. Hall Barlow, city manager, city attorney. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan, by the way. Good job. Ms. Hall Barlow, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my purpose for you this evening is to just summarize some of the new training requirements. I was a little bit surprised when I put this report together to find that I've been doing ethics training for public officials for 21 years. Seems like longer than that. But in any event, that has been the law in the state of California since 2005. I don't know. Yeah, we go. We can next. Yep. Thank you. And that training is has to cover basically 4 categories of topics: financial gain and conflicts of interest, Political Reform Act primarily, perquisites of office and use of public funds, government transparency, things like the Brown Act and the Public Records Act, and fair process requirements. There has been a change. in the law under SB 827, which took effect in January. The primary changes here are that there are more officials that are required to take this training, expands it to department heads and others, for example. We've often included our department heads in the training, so it won't be a significant change to us in that respect. It does shorten the deadline for initial training. Right now, or previously, you had to take the training within 1 year of assuming office. Now, you have to take it within 6 months of assuming office, and it retains the biannual training basis. SB 827 made another major change, and that is that it requires fiscal and financial administration training. I'm sure that Ms. Molina and her compadres will be quite happy about this, although she's not as happy that I've asked her to help me put together the training, but we will be working on that. It also creates new record-keeping and website posting requirements. They're not terribly complicated, and I'm sure that our city clerk's office will be able to handle that quite effectively. Next slide, please. So the ethics training, it really has always applied to anybody who receives any kind of compensation or reimbursement to complete the training. As I mentioned, we are now required to provide it to all of our department heads and others who you designate on your annual designation of positions that are required to, for example, file Form 700s. In that list, you typically have different levels of reporting required, but if they're on that list, they're going to be required to take this ethics training from here on out. For those who have been serving or were serving as of January 1st, again, within 1 year of assuming office, so anybody that assumed office prior to January 1st, 2026, don't panic, the 6 months doesn't apply to you. However, for anyone assuming office after that, that 6 months applies, and then we have to do it every 2 years thereafter. So I think our police chief is going to be having to take that now, among others. Next slide, please. For the fiscal and financial training, the topics required are financial administration, management, policies, reporting and auditing, municipal budgets and budget processes, capital financing, debt management, revenues, pensions, and other post-employment benefits and investments, and general fiscal and financial planning principles and laws relevant to your role as in overseeing agency operations, procurement, and contracting practices. This is a big list of topics. So it is going to take a little bit of time to develop a really good and comprehensive program. Next slide. Next slide, please. So this new fiscal training is required to be taken by all elected officials, all department heads, and any official who, as part of their official duties, quote, make decisions or recommendations regarding financial administration, budgeting, or use of public resources. That's pretty much everyone. It's hard to find somebody below the mid-management level who doesn't somehow make recommendations about expenditures, budgets, financial administration. But obviously everyone in the finance department will have to take the training, except those who already have professional licenses and are therefore exempt. Next slide, please. Oh, officials, again, we have different deadlines. Anyone serving as of January 1st, 2026 has to complete this training by January 1st, 2028. So there's 2 years for that. Anybody who is not going to be in office as of January 1st, 2028 does not have to take the training. Any officials that assume office on or after January 1st, 2026 will have to complete the training within 6 months of assuming office. So anybody who is hired as a person in these categories within the, will have to take it within 6 months. Anybody who is elected in the next election, and people who are appointed to committees and commissions and so on. And then we have to do this training every 2 years. Next slide, please. Record keeping and website requirements. The City Council has to maintain records of compliance with all of these ethics and fiscal training requirements for at least 5 years. And we are required to, I'm sorry, the city clerk does that. And we also have to post instructions on our website about how to request copies of those records and contact information for doing so. Next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, sorry, it takes a while to pop up. So she's like, I did it already. Sexual harassment prevention training is something that has been required for several years under SB 1343, which is the current version of the original law. It is required every 2 years, and all elected and appointed officials who oversee or provide direction to staff are required to complete 2 hours of training, and non-supervisory employees have to complete at least 1 hour of training every 2 years. Next slide. The training is required to cover federal and state laws prohibiting sexual harassment, remedies that are available to victims, practical examples of aimed at instructing supervisors how to prevent harassment, discrimination, retaliation, and abusive conduct, and to, do it in the everyday world. So we try to do a very interactive training with real life examples and a sort of question and answer, get the participants involved to offer suggestions, answer questions, and so on, so that it provides that real opportunity to think through these problems. It also requires prevention of harassment based on gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. And there is a separate small requirement for us to focus on some types of racial and ethnic harassment, which we also include. Next slide. So we'll be working with the city clerk to make sure that we get all the required training completed and provided. We're doing a sort of a short training with our committee and commission members on Thursday from 4 to 6 that will cover a lot of topics. It'll be sort of an introduction into some of the topics that are more broadly covered in the ethics and sexual harassment prevention training. We will be implementing the new retention and posting requirements. That'll potentially require an update to our retention schedule, so the city clerk is on that. And we will get that information posted about how to obtain copies of AB 1234 certificates and sexual harassment certificates, as well as the new financial training as well. We will also be bringing forward to you the current list of designated officials and employees with suggestions for council's action. And then I just wanted to point out that there are many sources of getting this training, including through the city attorney's office. We offer trainings here 2, 3, 4 times a year usually, multiple sessions. But the League of California Cities offers ethics training usually at its annual conference, and that's a good place to get it if you have to go there anyway. And then you can also get the sexual harassment prevention training online through the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. I personally think the more interactive process is much more not only interesting, but I think it's a better learning experience for the people who do it. But then I'm prejudiced because I give the training. So next slide. I think that's it. And my only question is, do you have any questions for me?
Questions, council? Okay, we don't have any. Open up for public hearing. Nobody from the chambers, anybody on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Close public comment. I'll make a motion to receive and file. Seconded by Councilmember Camaros. All right, thank you very much, Madam City Attorney, and let's call for the question. All right, thank you.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, thank you, everybody. Now I'm going to adjourn the meeting in honor and memory of Kathy Andrews and Bruce Chamness. May they rest in peace.